All right, welcome everybody. This is Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show. Show this out, show this out, show this out. Welcome everybody. I see, who do I see in the audience? Denise, welcome. Reese, welcome. Penny, welcome. Ashley, welcome. Who else is out here? Who else is in the audience? Say hello, and I won't know you're there if you don't say hello. Woo Riders, you're also here. Welcome. Oh, let me take down that overlay. Yeah, I played that second video. The first intro video is the normal intro video, the Orion Rising song. Those of you listening on the MP3 broadcast, you can't see any of the visuals. All you can hear is music for both of those intros. The second that you heard after the Orion Rising music ended is actually the Orion Coalition of Light intro, which I have up on the Orion Coalition of Light page group on Facebook. I created that. I don't know. I guess it's been over a year ago now, and I've had it in studio the whole time to play. But I don't play it very often. And today I decided, you know what? I'm going to play both intros. I know it's going to take like 5 minutes to run through that, but I'm going to do it anyways. So I played the Orion Rising intro, and then immediately went into the Orion Coalition of Light intro. And if you're listening on the MP3 broadcast, you don't see the visuals. You should go on YouTube or on Instagram or on Facebook, and you should watch the MP4 broadcast of that intro, both those intros, because you're missing out a lot if you're not listening or watching those intros and just hearing the music, right? Because there's a lot of secrets to the universe going on in both of those intros. So I just put it together as one, played one, and then just played the other one as soon as the first one ended, and just continued it on. Okay, so it's Friday night, Law of One. Let me get back over here to the chat so I can see what you guys are saying in the chat, right? Hi from Pamela too. Hi to Pamela too, right? So, okay, everybody, like I said, share this out. I shared it in like 4 places while that long intro was playing. But at least it's not like who was it, Charlie Kirk or what's his name, Church, or one of those guys. They have like a 30-minute intro. They literally turn on music, and it just goes on and on and on and on for like 30 minutes. I can't believe that people would just wait that long. You show up and it says the show's starting at 8 p.m. or something, and you turn it on and there's 30 minutes of just music, and he never speaks, nothing, and then all of a sudden they start, which is odd, but I guess when you're that popular, you can do that and get away with it, and people will just sit there and listen for 30 minutes to tune in. I have people that tell me just that first intro being 1 minute and I think it's 1 minute and 18 seconds. Let me check what it says here. Let me go over here and look. Where are we at here? There we go. 1 minute and 30 seconds for the very first video. And I've had people say, oh my God, that thing's so long. I don't tune in until later, because their attention span has been docked so much. Everybody's attention span is like 3.5 seconds. And that's actually true. If you go on to any of the platforms, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, anywhere where they play reels or shorts or whatever they call them on different platforms, the average watch time for all providers is about 3.5 seconds to 5 seconds if they're lucky. And they try to increase that to get better ratings, to get better pay. So they literally, that's why they have a clickbait on there. The new clickbait says, wait till the end, watch till the end. Wait for it. They show you that on the screen. That's just to get you to go to the end of the video. 9 times out of 10, nothing spectacular happens by the end of the video. And then people, to get past that, try to do something with a surprise at the end so that people don't get mad at them and stop clicking on their stuff, because that's what happened after people just started saying, wait for it, or watch to the end. And then there would be nothing that were there. And some people just made videos to where they start with suspense in the beginning, and you're like, oh my God, I can't wait for this to happen because it's going to be funny. And it never happens. And they do like 3 parts. And I've done it. I've clicked on them just to watch them. And I've gone, okay, it didn't happen in part 1, but here's part 2. Nothing. Part 3, nothing. And they never had a part 4. But people would watch all 3 of those videos to the end. And they got hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. And they were getting paid money to make that content. So over and over and over on their site, that's all they did. They never had anything happen. And they just kept doing that until people stopped watching them. And then they had to change their dynamic. But when you were able to be fooled, they fooled you until you weren't fooled anymore. So isn't that crazy? Okay, it's Friday night. It's the Law of One. There's nothing really crazy going on right now other than, normal crazy stuff in the world going on, right? People dying, people living, elections in the United States, everybody calling Donald Trump a evil Nazi and that he needs to be killed. But they're not saying that out loud, except for Joe Biden did yesterday. He said, we need to take him out. And then he went, politically, lock him out, because he said, we need to lock him up. He also said that. We need to lock him up. Wait, no, I meant lock him out politically. And so they've been trying to walk that back for a couple of days because he slipped up. That's called a Freudian slip. Anybody who knows anything about psychology knows what a Freudian slip is, right? That's just like when Bill Clinton and Al Gore, Bill Clinton was the president, Al Gore was the vice president, and somebody, this old woman, I don't remember who she was, but she was trying to, because people were saying that they were, lazy, good for nothing president and rock stars. And she was trying to say the two of them are, they work all the time. The two of them are workaholics. That's what she tried to say live. What came out of her mouth was the two of them are alcoholics, which is true because both of them are alcoholics. So the Freudian slip came out and she didn't say workaholic. She said alcoholic, because that's truly what was going on in her mind, because they are alcoholics. They drank all the time. And it was a Freudian slip. And then I don't remember if she even caught herself. And I remember rewinding that. Did she just say the two of them are alcoholics? And then it was all over the news that she said the two of them are alcoholics, not workaholics, alcoholics. Okay. So it's now I have everything moved around on my screen here. Okay, so it's Friday night. It's the Law of One. We're on session 63. I'm hoping to get all 106 sessions done before we stop doing the Law of One. I will continue to talk about it, but we're transitioning. That's why I played my intro for Orion Rising and then the Orion Coalition of Light intro, because we're transitioning into, and I'm transitioning away from doing just the Law of One, but I'm still using it as a tool for teaching spirituality. But I'm also starting to do, those of you who are normal followers, that we're starting to do during the week, workshops where we're not on air and we can answer your guys' questions so that you can interact more instead of just being in a setting where you type into the chat and ask a question during the Law of One. The problem with this is that me being a one-man show, I don't have producers that can watch the chat, and if I don't have my glasses on, I have to be way back here like that. Oh, by the way, you guys see my shirt? I got my shirt in a couple weeks ago, and I've not worn it on the show yet, right, for my book, Returning to the Old Ways, right, the reality about reality, returning to the old ways. So I'm wearing it today, and I made sure that the camera would pick it up if I sat back like this when I had my glasses off, so I could read the chat. You guys could see the name of my book on my shirt. On the back, it has my quote. It says on the back, religion recruits you, spirituality waits for you to find it. And then on the front, it has this. So yeah, I finally got that in. I showed you guys in the chat a couple weeks ago when I got it in, but I have not worn it since. I went and threw it in the laundry and then hung it up in the closet and haven't worn it. So I decided to wear it. Okay. So let's go ahead and start. We're on session 63. Let's start with the Law of One. Let me pull this up here and press play and see if you guys can hear it okay. And I'll do a sound check here, and you guys let me know if you can hear it. And we'll go ahead and get started on the Law of One on session 63, unless I got the wrong one brought up, right?
July 18th, 1981. 63.0 Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. 63.1 Questioner, could you give me an indication of the condition of the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. This instrument's vital energies are at the distortion which is normal for this mind/body/spirit complex. The body complex is distorted due to psychic attack in the area of the kidneys and urinary tract. There is also distortion continuing due to the distortion called arthritis. You may expect this psychic attack to be constant as this instrument has been under observation by negatively oriented force for some time. 63.2 Questioner, was the original problem with the kidneys some 25 years ago caused by psychic attack? Ra, I am Ra. This is only partially correct. There were psychic attack components to the death of this body at that space/time. However, the guiding vibratory complex in this event was the will of the instrument. This instrument desired to leave this plane of existence as it did not feel it could be of service. 63.3 Questioner, you are saying that the instrument itself then created the kidney problem at that time? Ra, I am Ra. The instrument's desire to leave this density lowered the defenses of an already predisposed weak body complex, and an allergic reaction was so intensified as to cause the complications which distorted the body complex towards unviability. The will of the instrument, when it found that there was indeed work to be done in service, was again the guiding factor or complex of vibratory patterns which kept the body complex from surrendering to dissolution of the ties which cause the vitality of life. 63.4 Question.
Okay, before we get going further, that is a thing, by the way, that you can manifest. Back when I was in my early 20s, I think I was 22, 23 years old, somewhere thereabouts. I wasn't even 25 yet. And I was working, I was a assistant manager of a retail store in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was unloading freight in the early morning hours during the Christmas time period. We were getting into work at about 3:30 in the morning to unload the freight off of the semis into the warehouse so that we could get it out to the sales floor, and had a morning crew that would work all the freight onto the shelves so that when we opened the store in the morning, we were able to have a fully stocked shelves and overstocked shelves. So because it was the Christmas season, because that company didn't do overnight stocking. So we did it in the early morning, basically overnight, because we got in at like 3:30 in the morning instead of working from 11 at night until 3 in the morning or 6 in the morning. We just came in at 3:30 and did that 3:30 to 8. And then we opened the store. So I was the way our dock worked there was we had a manual dock plate that when the semis pulled up and we rolled up the doors to the bay, we had to go over with this big tank bar. I don't know if you guys know what that is. If you're ever in the military anywhere on the planet, you know what a tank bar is. But if you're not, it's a big giant steel pipe that's like 8 feet long. And we had to put it down. The dock itself had a steel plate that hung down. And when the truck pulled up, you would put the big tank bar in this grommet hole, and you would pull it back, and it would lift up the dock plate. It was all military. This is the way the military used to work when they were doing the bridges on ships across water to drive tanks over, and they would have those on there. And so this was one of those that was obviously left over from probably the Second World War or something, and it was ended up sold on a dock for a company. And so you'd put the big tank bar in there, and you'd pull it, leverage it back, and it would pull the dock plate up like this. Then you would push it forward, and the dock plate would extend up and out over the distance and set down. But you had to have room on the truck for the dock plate to set on top of the semi. And they would deadlift stuff all the way to the doors. So we had to unload some of the freight across the gap. And you can't do that with any kind of hand truck. And we didn't have any whatchamacallits. I can't think of what they're called right now. If we didn't have a forklift, we just had a manual forklift. We didn't have a motorized one. So we couldn't get that over there, because if you had a motorized one, you could just put it over there, tilt it down and lift it up and back away while driving. So we had to go in by hand and unload stuff. And unfortunately, I turned around and I was handing boxes over, and I stepped in between the dock and the dock plate and the dock and the semi. And I fell down with my left leg in there and slammed it into the steel plate. And when the steel plate's down, there's these pieces that come up at a sharp angle that are the hinges. And I jammed my left knee on the hinges. I felt all of my weight on there, and it hit just below my kneecap on the left side, and it hit my leg, and then it literally tore my leg open and slid up and hit and got caught on my kneecap, and that's what stopped me not the actual cap because it would have just broke it off, but the knee joint itself was big enough to where it jammed in there and slammed into that, and then it came off of that and it chipped my knee joint a little bit, and because of that, the damage done to my left leg, I have no feeling in my left leg on the left outside. It hit a nerve on the right side of my knee that took all the feeling away from my knee all the way down to my ankle on my left side of my leg, which made it easier for the tattoo that I have on my leg of Odin, which goes almost from my kneecap to my ankle. I never felt it. I just sat there while they were tattooing it. And they're like, do you need a break? I'm like, I don't have any feeling in that side of my leg. Just keep tattooing it. So, so that did a lot of damage, and I couldn't walk for a long time. I had to use crutches, and I had to sit down and keep my foot up and be in a wheelchair and moving around and stuff. Once that healed, which took quite a while, I was off work for about a month, and then I could come back to work, but I had to keep my foot up and roll around on a chair. And then eventually it healed, and I have a scar there that looks like a bullet wound, and there's a piece of metal still stuck in my leg like shrapnel. So people are like, did you get shot? Were you in combat? And I'm like, no, I'd love to say that's what happened there, but no, that one is me falling off of a dock, a loading dock. But because of that, when I go through airports now, it goes, or going into a courthouse or something, they go on my leg and it goes, ree, and they're like, can you pull up? And I'm like a shrapnel in there, guys. Like there's a piece of metal fused to the knee of my, the bone of my knee. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, the doctors are never going to get it out. It's just fused in there from me falling. But the pain, getting to the point, the pain that I felt from that, Joanne, welcome. Cassie, welcome. Jane, welcome. The pain that I felt from that stayed for a long time. I mean, longer than it should have. I healed completely and I was moving around, but I still had pain. And I went to the doctor and I kept thinking, do I have arthritis in the knee, which I have now? Is it arthritis? And the doctor said, no, we can't find any reason. Maybe it's because of the damage you did to the nerve. Maybe the nerve is trying to refire in some way and you're feeling damage from that. Because that happens when you have nerve damage. If the nerves start coming back to life, they start going and it hurts. And you're like, what the hell? Until the nerve figures itself out. So we thought that's what it was. But it kept going on for like a year or two. And I had this pain. It was always uncomfortable. Constant pain all the time. And I'm not one to take narcotics or pain medication unless I absolutely have to. So I wasn't, because I don't want to get addicted to pain medication. So what happened was, I was at that same shrine dojo that I was telling you about from my Wiccan priestess, who was our Reiki master teacher, where the woman came and channeled Holy Mary Magdalene. And I was there talking to her about it, and her husband, Dan Golden Eagle, who's now deceased, but at the time he was there and he was very psychic. And he said, let me see your knee. And he said, is it all right if I touch you? And I said, yeah. So he knelt down in front of me and he put his hands around my knee. And he said, can I pull up your pant leg? I said, sure, go ahead. And he pulled up the pant leg and he looked at my knee and he says, yeah, that's quite a scar. That's not what's causing your problem. And I said, what's causing my problem? And he says, you're holding on to negative energy in your knee. The negative energy of what happened to you on that day is manifest in your knee, and you're feeling pain because you haven't let go of you blame yourself because you fell off that dock, and you're normally more aware of your surroundings, and you haven't come to terms with that and let it go. And so your leg is feeling pain, your brain is feeling pain in your leg. It's a ghost pain that you need to just let go of. And I was like, just like that, it'll go away. And he's like, yes, it was an accident, Leo. He said, you fell. Shit happens. Get over it and move on. Release that pain. Let it go away. And it will go away. Just like that, he said that. And I went, okay, what do I got to do? He said, close your eyes. Inhale through your nose for a count of 8. I want you to hold your breath until I tell you to let it out. And I want you to blow it out of your mouth, just like you know about doing with meditation techniques. And as you're blowing that out, release the pain. Tell yourself it's not your fault. It was an accident. It's okay. And release the pain. And do you know that that happened? And when I did that, the pain went away and I never had pain there other than the arthritis pain that I eventually ended up getting. But that pain was constant 24 hours a day. And the doctors were like, we have no idea. It must be the nerve endings and hopefully that'll go away. And if not, we'll shoot it with something and maybe kill that nerve completely. And I was like, no, I'm not going to let you guys just start shooting things and killing nerve endings in my body. I'll figure it out. Turned out I was holding on to it. It was my manifestation. And Raw's talking about that with Carla right here, where literally she did almost the same thing when she was younger. She didn't feel that she was worthy and she didn't feel that she was going to contribute to the world in any way. And that manifested a problem with, I think Raw said, her kidneys. And literally she almost died from it, right? So isn't that crazy? So you can, some of the stuff that we carry and some of the things that happen to us are manifest by us. A lot of the things that happen to us, ailments and things that we have, are manifest by us and held on to because of either our negative energy or the negative things that we're holding on to and not releasing, not being aware that we're doing it and we're not releasing that. And that's why we have problems, psychological problems, because of trauma and things like that in our lives that manifest in different ways. And until we acknowledge these things and move on from them and realize I'm a survivor, I made it. I'm not dead. I survived this. I'm a freaking boss, and then you move forward from that. And once you do that, it releases that stuff. Oh, and so you have to face that. That's just like your fears. You have to face your fear, and then you can release your fear because once you face it, then there's no reason to be afraid of it anymore, and it's not so scary anymore. And then it becomes less. And the next time you face that fear, it's less. That's Dianetics used that and still do to this day to brainwash you into thinking that they have some sort of special gift in a lie detector machine that if they hook it up to you and show you your worst nightmares and your worst fears, that they are responsible for making you better. And so give us more money, send me money, send me green, heaven you will meet, make your contribution and you'll get a better seat. Literally in that religion, you will. Right? So, and so they have you sell you all these packages to keep you moving up and anytime you doubt them, they hook you up to a lie detector test again. They don't tell you that that's what it is. And that's all it is. And that everything will manifest in that your stresses of your body. That's what it's designed to do. And when they use that to find out if you're telling a truth or a lie, is because psychologically, you're telling a lie and your body reacts to that. And so when a lie detector is hooked up to you, it'll register stress when you're lying. And so they figured out that they could do the same thing and utilize that to have you relive your worst fear or your worst nightmare or the worst thing that happened to you, show you how drastic that shows on the piece of paper from the pen writing on it, and then talk to you about it and give you counseling, psychological counseling to face that thing. And then they work with you over and over to bringing it up to you and talking to you about it for like a week. And then they have you come back and sit down and then they have you go over it again. And all of a sudden it's less. Well, of course it is, because you've been dealing with it, hearing about it, talking about it for over a week. So that means no matter what your trauma is, it's going to be far less after a week or even a couple of days because you've been doing nothing but dealing with it for a couple of days. But they sell you that it's them doing it and it's their Dianetics and that their magic, and you believe it. And every time they hook you up to the machine, it gets less and less and less, because in truth, the more you deal with something and the more you talk about something, the more you acknowledge it, it becomes less stressful to your body, even as a memory. That's how you work through things. But you don't know that if you don't know anything about psychology. And so they're like, yep, we're gods. We're so good. You need to be in our religion. And oh, by the way, you can't talk to anybody in your family unless they're also in our religion. So you have to disown everybody and join our cult. That is the true definition of a cult. Okay. It's not a religion. That's not a way of life. That's a cult. If they make you give up property, wealth, family members, or any of those or all of those, and you can't talk to anybody, and then if you try to leave them and they lock you up somewhere, or you piss them off and go against them, and they do the same thing that the liberals are doing around the world by stifling you, not letting you to communicate with anybody on the outside. Sound familiar? Same thing that these guys are doing around here in the United States and all over, like over in England. If you're in the UK, you can get arrested for talking like I am right now. That's a cult. That's literally a cult. Okay. Okay, so let's continue. Woo, I'm glad you got a new tire. So you must have made it home last week when you were having issues with the tire with a leak. So I'm glad that you got a new tire. If you guys are not over on YouTube, you can't see that Woo Riders DG said, I got a new tire. That's good. That's good that you got a new tire. Okay, because last week, if you guys don't know, Woo was driving home while listening to us and had something in a tire, some piece of metal or a rock or a nail or something. My email address, so you can give my friend. Yeah, I was wondering about that. When I'm glad you brought that up. You can my email address. If you got something to write with, I'll give it to you right now. Okay, and then you can email me. It's at. Let's see, let me give you my professional email so you can email it there. So that is my name, Leonard O'Neill, Leonard, Onei, only one L, Oneil, right? Leonard O'Neill, investing, no spaces in between any of this, right? Investing, IVESTING at AOL.com. Leonard O'Neill investing at AOL.com. Okay. So hopefully you wrote that down. Otherwise, I can give you another one that's easier to remember, right? I have many email addresses, but that's my professional email address for my company. So, and you can have them send me an email there. And if they can't figure that one out, let me know. Woo, you can also write down. Let's see, what would be another one that I check all the time? Olaf, OLAUFF at yahoo.com. Send it to, have them send it to one of those, Leonard O'Neill investing at AOL.com or Olaf, OLAUFF, two F's, at yahoo.com. And tell them to make sure that they give me, because I'll have to, a heads up, because sometimes I get a bunch of stuff in both of those inboxes and they end up in spam. So if I don't answer them, you can always have them go to Facebook and go to my Facebook page. And from there, they can send a message to me on Messenger. And that way they can get a hold of me. If not, I think you can send it to the YouTube page. There's an email account that's attached to that, but I don't remember which one it is, but I checked the emails. So if you send a message to the YouTube channel, I get notified because I'm on there every day. When I'm posting a reel, I'm on there every night. So if I have a message sent, otherwise, we can get you in the, if you're on Messenger, we can get you in the Law of One chat. And then all you have to do is just give them that link to there or to me if they want to have me on their podcast. But I would love to come on and talk about anything on their podcast. It would be kind of cool. Okay. And thank you, by the way, for that. All right. So Carla manifested that in the past. So it wasn't a psychic attack. It kind of was, because it was herself doing it. We do a lot of things to ourselves and don't realize that we're doing them to ourselves. And that causes a lot of illness. And that's why we're supposed to do the shadow work to get past that stuff. If you're a mean, cantankerous, snotty, snarky person, you will have more ailments in your life than if you're not. If you eat a lot of sugar and processed food, especially like from all the food here in the United States, that's absolute poison and garbage, then they'll keep you sick and you'll end up on medication. That's their plan. Same people who own the pharmaceutical companies own most of the processed food companies. And they're the ones and they used to own the cigarette companies, or they still do. Philip Morris and the other couple that own all the cigarette companies. Not a joke. You can look that up. All right, let's continue with the Law of One here. Okay.
Is the necessity for the instrument to go to the bathroom several times before a session due to the psychic attack? Ra, I am Ra. In general, this is incorrect. The instrument is eliminating from the body complex the distortion leavings of the material which we use for contact. This occurs variably, sometimes beginning before contact, other workings this occurring after the contact. In this particular working, this entity is experiencing the aforementioned difficulties, causing the intensification of that particular distortion/condition. 63.5 Questioner: I know that you have already this question, but I feel it my duty now to ask it each time in case there is some new development, and that is there anything that we can do that we aren't doing to lessen the effectiveness of the psychic attack upon the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. Continue in love, praise and thanksgiving to the Creator. Examine previous material. Love is the great protector. 63.6 Questioner: could you give me a definition of vital energy? Ra, I am Ra. Vital energy is the complex of energy levels of mind, body, and spirit. Unlike physical energy, it requires the integrated complexes vibrating in an useful manner. The faculty of will can, to a variable extent, replace missing vital energy, and this has occurred in past workings, as you measure time, in this instrument. This is not recommended. At this time, however, the vital energies are well nourished in mind and spirit, although the physical energy level is, in and of itself, low at this time. 63.7 Questioner: would I be correct in guessing that vital energy is a function of the awareness or bias of the entity with respect to its polarity or general unity with the Creator or creation? Ra, I am Ra. In a non-specific sense, we may affirm the correctness of your statement. The vital energy may be seen to be the deep love of life or life experiences such as the beauty of creation and the appreciation of other selves and the distortions of your co-creators making, which are of beauty. Without this vital energy, the least distorted physical complex will fail and perish. With this love or vital energy or Allah, the entity may continue though the physical complex is greatly distorted. 63.8 Questioner:
Right. So if you were paying attention to the intro, right, when I got done with the Orion Rising intro and played the Orion Coalition of Light intro, that's what that intro is about. That intro is about being a co-creator, in that your heart chakra is the light of the universe, not just the light of the world. It is creation. And you can only create through that chakra, through the heart, through the love. And because of that, that's why people who are in service to self cannot create. They can only manipulate, control, and the like. So that's why most rich people on the face of the earth, you can tell whether they're in service to self or in service to others, because they have a product and then you come to find out that they stole it from somebody, took credit for it, bought it, stole it outright, because they can't create. Only thing they can do is they have the wherewithal to steal something away from someone else or control it or gain control of it in some way. And that's what they do. BlackRock, Vanguard, the Orion Group, those people are famous for doing that, right? BlackRock is going around right now in the United States, and everywhere where they're building houses, BlackRock is buying all of the housing tract and they're renting them out. Their plan is to own every single home in the United States. And they're not selling them. They're only renting them. Okay. So what's happening is when they have a housing tract and they're building it, it used to be a lottery and you would go in and people would bid on it for certain houses. And so what's happening is people are bidding on it and BlackRock's coming in. And if the house is, say there's a bid for a house that's $500,000, BlackRock's coming in and going $1 million. We'll buy it outright. And they don't care because they have so much money. They don't care because they know that once they own the house, they're going to charge double the rent and people are going to have to rent from them because they're going to own all of them. And then they're going to make their money back in a year or two. And then everything after that is pure profit. And they know that and they're aware of it. They do the same thing with corporations. Okay. They don't have the creative ability to go into the business of building houses. They want other people to do it for them. And then they just buy them. And then they rent them out so that nobody else has a house. That's their plan. That's how they're going to try and change the face of the world, by buying up all of the real estate and then renting it to everybody else. So they're literally making themselves kings and then charging you rent to live on the king's land and taxing you on it. Think about what they're doing and what they're transitioning to. Do you see? So that video was exactly about what Ra is talking about, that as a co-creator, your heart chakra is the creation, and you have to start thinking about your heart chakra and your heart as one unit, first of all, and that the energy of love created the universe and is creating this place. You're co-creating this place every nanosecond. We are all, with our will, making this place vibrate. And science has proven that literally all of existence winks in and out of existence like I think they said it's like 100 million times or 100 billion times a second. So literally it's being created over and over and over and over by us holding it here. And then there is a slight time when it disappears and then reappears, disappears and reappears, just like a light bulb does. If you film it in slow motion, you see that the light bulb doesn't just turn on and stay on. It's pulsing. So is the universe itself. And how is that being done? By us. Okay? So you have to realize that your heart chakra is the creation. And that's what that entire video for the Orion Coalition of Light is about, is teaching you that as within, so without, as below, so above. That your heart chakra is the light of the universe. There is no difference in the love of your heart chakra if you are in service to others. If you're in service to self, you still have a heart chakra, but it's self-serving. So it's internalized, not externalized. Okay, so therefore you're not going to create and can't create anything because you don't want to. Creating something means you're trying to help others. And if you're trying to help yourself, you don't care to be creating something, because if you create something, even for yourself, other people will benefit from it. So you're not doing that. You're just gobbling up other people's stuff and controlling other people because you don't want to create something, because accidentally you'll be serving the all by doing so. So you don't want to create anything or have any part of that because other people are going to benefit from it. Okay. All right. So let's continue here. Welcome, Bo. I didn't see you there until I just happened to look up and I saw that Joanne said, nice to meet you, Bo. And then I saw that you were on. Welcome. All right, let's continue here.
From last session, I would like to continue with a few questions about the fact that in fourth density red, orange, and green energies will be activated, yellow, blue, etc., being in potentiation. Right now, you say we have green energies activated. They have been activated for the last 45 years. I am wondering about the transition through this period so that the green is totally activated and the yellow is in potentiation. What will we lose as the yellow goes from activation into potentiation, and what will we gain as the green comes into total activation, and what is that process? Ra, I am Ra. It is misleading to speak of gains and losses when dealing with the subject of the cycles ending and the green ray cycle beginning upon your sphere. It is to be kept in the forefront of the faculties of intelligence that there is one creation in which there is no loss. There are progressive cycles for experiential use by entities. We may now address your query. As the green ray cycle or the density of love and understanding begins to take shape, the yellow ray plane or earth which you now enjoy in your dance will cease to be inhabited for some period of your space/time as the space/time necessary for fourth density entities to learn their ability to shield their density from that of third is learned. After this period there will come a time when third density may again cycle on the yellow ray sphere. Meanwhile there is another sphere, congruent to a great extent with yellow ray, forming. This fourth density sphere coexists with first, second, and third. It is of a denser nature due to the rotational core atomic aspects of its material. We have discussed this subject with you. The fourth density entities which incarnate at this space/time are fourth density in the view of experience but are incarnating in less dense vehicles due to desire to experience and aid in the birth of fourth density upon this plane.
Okay, so a lot of the people that are here, and this is what I talked about Wednesday. So we weren't live on air, but if you were not in the work group on Wednesday where I was answering questions, you don't know about this at all. But I talked about this where people talk about, this like the rapture, and that there's going to be the left behind, and there's going to be like here on earth, the concept, and from the Christian standpoint is that while I could be live on the air right now and talking to you, and if Jesus showed up in the bus to pick us all up, as I was talking to you, I would just disappear. And the camera would just be sitting here filming nothingness anymore. Or if I'm the pilot of an aircraft and Jesus shows up in the bus, I would just disappear and the plane would crash and kill all the people in the plane. They don't address it that way, but that's what they talk about, that everybody just disappears and everybody who's left behind is the Left Behind. The Left Behind series that went on. There was a television series called The Left Behind, and that was on the air for a while until people kind of got into the idea of what I just talked about and went, wait a minute. So that's what you're saying. And then the ratings went down and they canceled the show because people were like, this is bullshit. Okay. But that's the Christian rapture, and what they're selling to you is that, wait here, God's coming back, Jesus is coming, and he's bringing a big bus, and if your name's not on his list, then you're going to be the left behind, and this is going to become hell, and you're going to be stuck here for all of eternity. Okay, that's not what's happening. Then you have the New Age ideology of that we're going to spontaneously move into 4D, but they have the Christian ideology attached to it, that some of us are going to move into this 4D place and some of us are not, and they're going to be stuck in the 3D place. And so it's still the same ideology of the Christian rapture, only taking Christianity out of the religious equation, but that's what they're selling you. Okay. And that's what they're enacting. Okay. And that's not what's happening by any stretch of the imagination. What's happening is a shift, a natural shift is going to be happening between now, 2032 and 2050. Between now, 2032 is going to be one milestone, and 2050 is going to be another milestone. And what's going to happen at these time periods is, and what is happening currently that you guys are unaware of, is that the fourth dimension is being created and is created currently, right here. Okay. And this is what Raw's saying. So I'm going to rewind it after I go through my spiel here, which might take me 100 million hours. But I'm going to rewind what Raw just said so that you can hear Raw say it once again. Raw was talking about this 40 years ago. Okay. So what's happening is there are some of us who are here currently. We are fixing this place and transitioning it into 4D away from 3D. But the only way that it's going to work so that you don't have this wink out and people left behind, is that there's going to be a transition that's going to happen where everything that is the way it is or was, say 2,000 years ago when Jesus was alive in third dimension, coming forward to now, you have a shift in what's going to happen is that literally the mindset and the psyche of the entire population is already, and if you're paying attention, you already know this, is already shifting away from all of those old ways that are the ways of the flesh and shifting backwards to older ways. And this is why the title of my book is The Reality About Reality, returning to the old ways, skipping over the flesh ways and going back to the older spiritual ways prior to everything, the Anunnaki getting here or the Orion Crusaders getting here. And Paulie, welcome. And what's happening is that we're rewriting and we're fixing this place because it's overdue. It should have already moved into 4D long time ago. And it's being held or has been held in this third dimension for far too long, and it needed to be fixed. So we're here now fixing that. And what's going to happen is most of you, if you're not a wanderer, you're never going to notice it, but you will notice it. You're not noticing it right now, but if you're a wanderer, you are starting to notice it already. If you're just a person here and you're starting to wake up and you're paying attention, you're noticing a shift in the mindset of people on this earth. And this is why you're getting so much backlash and pushback by people that are in service to self, because they feel it as well. They feel that their time is short. And they're trying to stifle and stop everybody from the shift that is being created. Okay. So what's happening is that the fourth dimension is being created simultaneously, overlapping into this place, the third dimension. The fourth dimension is currently being constructed here in this place, because even when the fourth dimension is here, say the third dimension is gone, we're still going to have all the plants and the trees and everything, because 1 and 2D are definitely something that still is in 4D. Plants, food, animals, the whole nines, air, water. So there's no difference. So what's happening is 4D is constructed, 3D is constructed, it's constructed right on top of each other. And what we're doing is we're shifting 3D closer and closer to 4D, and 3D, as it's doing that, is slowly disappearing until one day there's not going to be any 3D left, only 4D. That doesn't mean that evil's going to disappear off the face of the earth. But those people who are currently not capable of moving into 4D because they're still too young as a soul in their development, when their life cycle ends, they'll just die like normal. But instead of coming back on Earth, they'll be transported to a different planet that supports third dimensional life, and then they'll insert themselves into a body there. And when they wake up veiled there, they won't notice that there was any change in where they were. Because they won't have any memory anyways. So they'll just be born on a different planet and start their life there and continue until they move into the 4D. And then if there's 4D on that planet, they'll just move into that 4D when they die at the end of that third dimensional life. If not, if we're the closest place, they'll come back to here. They still won't notice. Only time they'll notice the difference is when they're deceased and they're just the spirit, just their soul, they'll know. But you don't know that when you're down here. So what's happening here is that 4D is created, and it's created overlapping 3D, and we're moving 3D into 4D, and everybody's just going to start transitioning. And that's what's happening on the earth now. Okay? All of the energy is shifting towards 4D, and so it's literally going to blend in, and then 3D is just going to fall away and not be there anymore. And most of the people on this earth aren't really going to realize that's what happened. You're not going to see anything different. So it's not going to be completely scary, because think about how scary that would be if literally everybody just winked out of existence, like the rapture said, and all of a sudden you got transported to another universe, a 4D universe. Now what? You don't have a job. You don't have a car. You don't have a place to live. You don't have any food. What, are you naked now too? You don't have any clothing. Are you born in a body, brand new all over? And a second ago, you were 37 years old or 50 years old or 60 years old. And now all of a sudden you're born and, man, what the fuck's going on? Or worse, you're you. And then all of a sudden you have no point of reference. You don't know the landscape. You don't know the city you're in. You don't know anything. You don't know the politics. You don't know. And you're just like walking around. And what's going to happen? People are going to go, uh-oh, another one popped in. We're really sorry, sir. You're going to be okay. Now you have to integrate in this society and figure your own shit out. Right? So now we have to teach you, just like as if you were being born for the first time, how to speak our language, what foods to eat, what foods not to eat, what you have to do, how to poop, where the bathrooms are, where you're going to live, all of that. That doesn't happen in the universe because that's too much shock. You know how many people would just kill themselves because they would be like, no, I want to go back, because your entire existence is now over, and everything that you were used to your entire life is no longer there. And now you have to get used to an entirely new world. That's like the shock of people that are in prison and they get out of prison after 20 years. It's bad enough that they are in prison for 20 years and then they get out. And even they have been watching television the entire time, and it's still a culture shock when they get out of prison to come back out into real life. Okay, so imagine if somebody just uprooted you, picked you up off the planet on a spaceship, moved you to another land, and then set you down in the center of a city and just said, have a nice day, and left you there. You would have no idea what to do, who to talk to, who to trust, where to get food. You wouldn't have any idea. You'd be like, oh my God, I'm new here. Somebody just brought me here and dumped me. And people are going to roll their eyes. Fuck, another one. Now we got another one, another mouth to feed while we bring them up to speed. So that's not the way it's going to happen. Okay? That's not the way it's going to happen. So what's happening is that this play, and I'll go back and play it. Let me reiterate, and I'll go back and you can hear Ross say it. 4D is overlapping 3D, and we are constructing 3D, and we're pushing 3D out and pushing everybody, raising their vibration. going to change the face of the world and make this place the 4D. Those of you who think, wait a minute, I don't think you know what you're talking about, I'll remind you of the Christian, in the Christian Bible and in the Hebrew Bible, where God is going to create the new earth. Okay? I was just talking to my brother about this 2 days ago, where God's going to create the new earth. And I said to him, do you think that's going to be a separate place that you're going to have to fly to and that God's going to come and get you in a bus and take you there? And he was like, well, I kind of doubt that. And I'm like, right. But most people think that's what it is. God said he was creating a new earth. And Jesus said that. I'm going to create a new earth for you. And that earth is going to be the most beautiful earth. I'm going to create a new heaven. There's other parts of the Bible that say that. And that heaven is going to be and everyone's like, it's a place. It must be a place. And it's not this one, obviously, because this one is hell. So it's got to be another place. And so the Christians believe that the rapture was going to be, we're all going to disappear and all you evil people are going to be stuck here because this is actually hell. And we're going to go to the new earth. Okay. The new earth is this earth. This earth is going to change and become the new earth because it's changing already now. It has been for a very long time. More so in the last 40 years, when you consider the population of the planet has gone from 1.7 billion souls to 7.9 billion souls on this earth in 40 years. No other time in the history of this earth has the population grown that much at all, let alone that much. We've averaged usually somewhere between 1 billion and 2 billion people worldwide at any one time on this earth for its entire existence until 40 years ago. And then to now, okay? And you can ask any scientist, look that up anywhere, and you'll find that out, okay? So what's happening is that we are creating 4D. It's already here. Some of you are starting to live in it already, and some of you are not because you're not ready to, and you don't know what's going on, or you're not unveiled enough, or you just don't see it because you're too busy seeing all the negative in the world and what's going on with the world. But what's going to happen is that everything is shifting, and some of you who are wanderers out there, you're perceiving these time dilations, these shifts in time that the scientists are calling the Mandela effect, and saying you guys out there in the world are just remembering things wrong, and they can't explain to you why it is that people in cultures across the whole planet who have never met one another, who are brought up completely different, eat completely different food, or raised completely different, wear completely different clothing, have a completely different system in their country compared to this one, and dynamic of everything. There is nothing that you have in common except for your DNA, but yet you have the same memory that has changed. And then you have those people that are panicked about everything, and they're the Chicken Littles, and the sky is always falling, and we're all doomed. And they're like, it's CERN, it's the bad guys. They're shitting themselves. They don't know what's going on. They would wish that they had that ability to do that, but they don't. So the reason that you're perceiving these changes, especially the large ones that everybody perceive, that a lot of us perceive, is because you are, in fact, a wanderer. You are, in fact, here because you're here to change things, and you're able to perceive these changes and these shifts. Every time there's a slight shift where 3D becomes less dense and 4D becomes the more prevalent, as 3D is starting to wane, like a full moon waning to a new moon, eventually there's not going to be any 3D left here at all. It's just going to disappear. But everything else is still going to stay here. It doesn't take third dimension for a tree to be here. Trees is a two-dimensional object in a three-dimensional world. A two-dimensional being that creates and helps construct the three-dimensional world. 4D works the exact same way. We don't need 3D to have 4D, just like we don't need 4D to have 5D. But we still need 1 and 2D until we start transitioning more into energy and less into having to consume products, food, tangible 1 and 2D things for our sustenance. When you start moving into energy that comes from the universe, you don't need the 1 and 2D anymore in your existence. And then that's somewhere in 5D going into 6D and above that, to where you don't need to have all this. But you still go to these places because they're pretty to look at. Okay. So let me back this up now so you can hear what Ra say that one more time. Okay.
For some period of your space/time is the space/time necessary for fourth density entities to learn their ability to shield their density from that of third is learned. After this period there will come a time when third density may again cycle on the yellow race sphere. Meanwhile there is another sphere, congruent to a great extent with yellow ray, forming. This fourth density sphere coexists with first, second, and third. It is of a denser nature due to the rotational core atomic aspects of its material. We have discussed this subject with you. The fourth density entities which incarnate at this space/time are fourth density in the view of experience but are incarnating in less dense vehicles due to desire to experience and aid in the birth of fourth density upon this plane. You may note that fourth density entities have a great abundance of compassion. 63.9 Questioner.
Okay, so did you guys hear that? All right, so think about what I just said. Think about what Ra just said 40 years ago. Okay, so literally there's fourth dimensional people who were here that are helping aid bringing about the fourth dimension, and you're interacting with them constantly and you just don't know it. You don't know that they're already 4D because they're in the 3D helping you. Okay, let's continue.
Now, at present we have, in third density incarnation on this plane, those third density entities of the planet Earth who have been here for some number of incarnations who will graduate in the three-way split, either positive polarity remaining for fourth density experience on this plane, the negative polarity harvestable going to...
Yeah, Cassie, I just did, right? You just said, Leo, were you going to rewind it? I did rewind it. Do you need me to rewind it again? Or was that just a lag? Let me rewind it again. I did rewind it. Let me back it up again.
Density in the view of experience but are incarnating in less dense vehicles due to desire to experience and aid in the birth of fourth density upon this plane. You may note that fourth density entities have a great abundance of compassion. 63.9 Questioner. Now, at present we have, in third density incarnation on this plane, those third density entities of the planet Earth who have been here for some number of incarnations who will graduate in the three-way split, either positive polarity remaining for fourth density experience on this plane, the negative polarity harvestable going to another planet, and the rest unharvestable third density going to another third density planet. In addition to these entities, I am assuming that we have here already some entities harvestable from other third density planets who have come here and incarnated in third density form to make the transition with this planet into fourth density, plus wanderers. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct, except we may note a small point. The positively oriented harvested entities will remain in this planetary influence but not upon this plane. 63.10 Questioner.
So I had to get up for a second there, and my mother was falling asleep in the living room, and I noticed that her head was down. So I had to go over. I couldn't yell at her because Raw was on, so I got up and went over there and shook her and went, hi, and I went, wake up. All right, let's continue.
Now, we have, I believe, if I remember correctly, I think you said there were 600 million wanderers, approximately. Am I correct in that memory? Ra, I am Ra. This is approximately correct. There is some excess to that amount asterisk.
Okay, so 600 million wanderers 40 years ago, when the population of the planet was 2.7 billion. Okay? Today, we have 7.9 billion people. 68% of the population are not from here. Of that 68%, approximately 63% are actually wanderers. So 60% of 7.9 billion. That's more than half. That's more than half. Okay? That means 7.9 billion, and some people say 8 billion people. So that's somewhere around 4 billion wanderers today. In 1981, 600 million. Today, 4 billion. Think about the difference in the amount of people that are currently on this earth that actually came here to change this place. There are more people on this earth currently that are here to fix this place than there are who need our help. This is why the entire universe is watching this place currently, because what's happening here is not something that normally happens. Even the getting caught part isn't something that readily happens all the time. But what we're doing here in that shift that I just told you about, without having to kill off the entire planet, without having to leave anybody behind, is not something that normally happens. Okay. This is something that's only happened in the Milky Way galaxy one time prior to this, by the way, just in case you were unaware of that. In this galaxy, it's happened once before. That's how rare this event is, that is ongoing, that is happening on this Earth currently. Okay, let's continue.
Asterisk, the correct number in 1981 was somewhat in excess of 60 million. RA and Don corrected their mistake in session 64. 63.11 questioner, does that number...
Sorry, Denise said, Leo, we all want that shirt. I can give you the guys who made it for me. Right now I'm not making them and selling them, but this you can get it in any color, and you can change the color of the writing as well. You can even change the size if you want. But the pattern is actually online at the company that I bought it from. So you could actually get hoodies, you could get pullovers, you could get any color shirt, any color writing that you would want. But the shirt cost me like $45 just to create it and have it mailed to me. So they're kind of expensive, and I'm not making any money off of it. It's the only reason why I haven't started marketing them, because if I'm going to sell them and make the profit off of it, then I would love to sell. But you guys can. I'll give you guys the information in the class afterwards for the website that you can go to. Because I have it saved, I'll have to look up on my email. If you guys want to buy one, I just don't make any money off of it. They make all the money off of it. But it is on their website, so you guys could order them and get whatever color you want. And I would appreciate that, as long as, make sure that when somebody sees it, if they ask you about it, what is that? Where, you can tell them that's the book by Leonard O'Neill, and like have a picture of it on your phone or something, or tell them Google it. But yeah, no, you guys can get them. If you want to get, I haven't bought a hoodie yet, but I'm thinking about buying a hoodie as well with it, so I can put that on and walk out in the world, even in the cold, and people will see that on the back and on the front. And I thought about making the words taller but I'm not sure yet, because I kind of like this. It is a little small, but so this was kind of the test, but people see it. I mean, when you guys see it when I'm on here, right? It says the reality about reality, returning to the old ways. And I did it in the same color scheme as the color of the book. It's not identical, because that was a little bit more gold than this, but I did it in the highlighted color that you would see on the signs for the caution sign on purpose, right? So I thought it was kind of cool. I thought about doing it in a different color, because you can do it in a highlighted green or something that really stands out. I thought about doing that. Anyway, let's continue. So you talk to me after the show, and I'll get you guys the link if you want to buy a t-shirt. You can go there and redesign the color coordination however you like it, and then they'll make it for you and ship it to you. But like I said, I don't make any money off of that, and that's the only reason why I haven't done it. But I'm considering making them myself. I was going to do that when I was in Arizona, start making, because you can do that yourself and make them at home. I thought about doing that and then creating my own products and start to have those on hand and mail them out to people. And start marketing it myself, right? So I may still do that, but in the meantime, if you guys want to do that, by all means, I'll give you the company, because it's already in their database listed. All you have to do is go in there and go blue shirt, red lettering, or whatever you want to do, and then order it in your size. So it'll take less time than you trying to, because otherwise you'd have to make it up like I did. You'd have to type it in and put it all together, and then decide all that stuff, and then save it in their company. So now it's already saved there. So you guys can just go in and go click, 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 buy, and they'll mail it to you. And it takes like a week or something at the most, unless you want to pay to have it overnighted. They'll get it to you in like a day or two or something. Anyway, that's what they're famous for. So talk to me after the class. I'll give you the information, because I would love for you guys to be advertising my shit for me. It would be badass. All right, let's continue here.
Include the harvestable third density who are coming to this planet for the fourth density experience. Ra, I am Ra. No. 63.12 questioner, approximately how many are here now who have come from other planets third density harvestable for fourth density experience? Ra, I am Ra. This is a recent, shall we say, phenomenon, and the number is not yet in excess of 35,000 entities. 63.13 Questioner. Now these entities incarnate into a third density vibratory body. I am trying to understand how this transition takes place from third to fourth density. I will take the example of one of these entities of which we are speaking who is now in a third density body. He will grow older, and then will it be necessary that he die from the third density physical body and reincarnate in a fourth density body for that transition? Ra, I am Ra. These entities are those incarnating with what you may call a double body in activation. It will be noted that the entities birthing these fourth density entities experience a great feeling of, shall we say, the connection and the use of spiritual energies during pregnancy. This is due to the necessity for manifesting the double body. This transitional body is one which will be, shall we say, able to appreciate fourth density vibratory complexes as the INS teareming increases without the accompanying disruption of the third density body. If a third density entity were, shall we say, electrically aware of fourth density in full, the third density electrical fields would fail due to incompatibility. To answer your query about death, these entities will die according to third density necessities. 63.14 Question.
Although I will say that this t-shirt is actually high quality, by the way, guys. It's actually a really good t-shirt. I've gotten shirts from other people that have made shirts like I wear those ones that say third eye wide. Those t-shirts are really thin and kind of cheap t-shirts. They still last. I've had them for like 8 years and I still wear them. But this t-shirt's actually one of the thicker t-shirts that I have. It's a really good cotton t-shirt. I was impressed when I got it. I was like, "Oh, this is quality t-shirt. This is a quality shirt. This isn't one of those cheap." I thought it was going to be a cheap t-shirt. You know, most companies do that. But it's actually a quality shirt. And that's why I was like, I may have to get a hoodie from them with this on it, because if the t-shirts are this quality, then I'm sure the hoodie's got to be as well. This is not a made in China t-shirt. This is not. This is not a made in China t-shirt. This is an American made t-shirt. I haven't looked on the tag, but the feel of it is 100% American cotton and it's thick, right? This is a shirt that you wouldn't wear as an undershirt, right? It wouldn't wear, even though it's a tee, the type of shirt is a t-shirt. This is not designed to be a t-shirt you wear a shirt over the top of. This is a shirt that is designed to be worn. It's thick, right? So I just want to let you guys know that, because you guys are saying it's getting cold, and I didn't want to put up on the screen the rest of your guys' conversation, though I kind of did, because it would be funny, because you guys were talking about your boobs and bras and sizes and whether it was cold or not. And I was thinking about popping everything you guys said up for the world to see, and I thought that would be funny, but it wouldn't be nice to do, right? If anybody watches this in the chat, you guys can read what they were talking about, because it's there, right? All right, let me continue. It's funny.
You are saying, then, that for the transition from third to fourth density for one of the entities with doubly activated bodies, in order to make the transition, the third density body will go through the process of what we call death. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. The third and fourth combination density's body will die according to the necessity of third density mind/body/spirit complex distortions.
See?
We may respond to the heart of your questioning by noting.
See, so I'm glad he prefaced that, because he's Don's asking about, you know, the transition and how, oh, well, we'll have to die in the third, because that was 40 years ago and people were still in that mindset of the Christian rapture, thinking that the only way that you're going to go into the fourth density is that you have to die in the third dimensional body. And so Ra's like, no, that they're simultaneous. But to move up, yeah, you still have to die to move up, but not moving into the fourth. You just transition in. And so he's kind of giving you that both of them are in the same place, overlapping and of this. So as you transition, this is where people say, this is where literally they go, everything about me has changed. The music I like, the food that I eat, I'm healthier, I don't sleep as much. And that's because you're actually starting to vibrate in the fourth dimension now. You're literally moving into a 4D body, okay? Because your vibration is just shifting yourself. And most of the time people aren't perceiving those shifts in reality around them. And people are starting to do that now. They're starting to perceive that. So they go from everything seems to fit here and they don't notice anything. And then they start going, has everybody been lying? When did they start lying? People on the news just lying. That's why I preface that as my description of my book. Are you starting to see that politicians are lying? Are you starting to see that the news agencies are lying? Are you starting to see that the churches don't seem to know what's going on and they're failing us? You know, you're not crazy. This is actually happening, and it's normal that you're perceiving it, because that's what's happening is you start vibrating at a higher level. You start transitioning, you change what you like to eat. All of a sudden you're working out, you're exercising, you're eating better, you're feeling better, you have more energy, you don't have to have as much sleep, you're not as sickly. Then all of a sudden you start looking at television and you're like, wow, when did they start doing that? Have they always been lying that blatantly? And then you transition to the point where you start looking at people and you go, oh my God, they're all asleep. And then you transition past that to the point of going, oh my God, they're all children. When did this happen? It's always been that way. You're just not one of them anymore. You're just not one of them anymore. You're now becoming an adult. You're shifting into 4D. Okay? Right in front of them. And then they start looking at you like you're crazy. And you start saying things like I do that people think I'm crazy. The only people who think that you're crazy are crazy people. They just don't know they're crazy because they're children. They don't know they're children. You don't know that until you're not a child. And then that'll be the last time you'll ever say, I'm a grown-ass, man, or I'm a grown-ass woman, or I'm a grown-ass adult. You'll never say that again because you won't feel that you need to. Because a grown-ass man or a grown-ass woman or a grown-ass adult there's no reason for them to ever say that. Because there's no question in their mind who they are. Right? Only person who ever says that is someone who's not, and they're trying to convince themselves and you that they're an adult when they're actually not. Just because the physical body is over the age of 18 in this country doesn't mean you're an adult. Just means that legally you're an adult. Doesn't mean that psychologically and maturity level that you are anything other than what you are. And that could be a child. And for 99% of the population, maybe 90% of the population now, 90% of the population of this earth, they're all under the age of 18. Most of them are between 11 and 16 or 17 years of age, mostly 11 and 14. Let's continue.
That the purpose of such combined activation of mind/body/spirit complexes is that such entities, to some extent, consciously are aware of those fourth density understandings which third density is unable to remember due to the forgetting. Thus fourth density experience may be begun with the added attraction, to an entity oriented towards service to others, of dwelling in a troubled third density environment and offering its love and compassion. 63.15 Questioner, would the purpose in transitioning to Earth prior to the complete changeover then be for the experience to be gained here during the harvesting process?
All right, before he answers that, I'll talk to what Penny said. Penny said, people have always thought I was crazy, so how do I tell if I'm going into 4D? Everything that I just stated, for one, not just the way people look at you, but the way you perceive this world, the way you perceive people, the way you perceive television programming, the way you perceive everything. If you're looking around and you're wondering, just like I said on the description of my book, or, if you turn on the news and you're just like, they're just lying. When did they start doing that? They've always been doing that. It's no difference. If you think back to what the news agencies have been saying on the news your entire life, you're going to see it's never changed. What's changed? If you listen to look at the television programming on television, whatever the shows are that you watch that are on there, if you watch any of the regular programming that are the, say non-comedy programming, the dramas, they're all the same. And they're all designed for children, right? If you're watching a movie and you got it figured out in the first 10 minutes because you're paying attention as an adult. If you're watching a television show and you know who the killer is and you know what's going on and you know what's going to happen before the first commercial break or by the first commercial break, and now you're just waiting for it to play out, it's because you're seeing it through the eyes of an adult. You saw all the cues that they gave you of who the killer was and what they were doing, and you realize that. Most people won't watch it if they don't get to see who the killer is in the first 30 seconds of the show. That's the way all programming is. So you have to be in on the secret or you don't want to watch it. Right? If you find yourself tuning in late on purpose because you don't want to see who the criminal is so you can still try and figure it out before the next commercial break, then you already know that you're an adult, and now you're trying to get something more out of the television programming. If you look at the news agencies or you look at politicians and you listen to what they're saying and you watch the commercials and you watch the television programs, and all of that kind of bothers you, if you're reading the ingredients when you go to the store before you pick everything up, or you pick everything up and you're reading the ingredients before you buy it, that's starting to tell you that you're already changing your ways and you're looking for more organic foods and less sugars and fillers and crap in the food. If you think back of what movies did I like watching when I was 20? What movies did I like watching when I was 30? What movies did I like watching when I was 40? And now what movies do I like watching now? What music did I listen to? Do I still like to listen to the same music, or do I listen to it because I used to listen to it back then? Do you see? What foods did I eat 5 years ago compared to now? If everything's identical and you don't have any other perception, then you haven't changed much. But Penny, I know you, so I know you have. Okay. So do you feel like you fit less in than you did before? Do you feel like there's something that you're supposed to be doing and there's something that's more that's supposed to be happening than is? Do you feel like, that you don't fit in like everybody else fits in? They can eat anything they want to eat. They never get sick. I eat some stuff and it just ruins me. Why is it I can't eat like that? They can go out in the sun all day long. They can smoke 100 packs of cigarettes and never die. They can, a day. They can drink, and fall down and pass out and get up and go to work tomorrow. And I can't do that. Why? I can't go out in the sun and sit there in a bathing suit for 8 hours like that guy does. I get burnt in 5 seconds running to my car. All these things start changing about yourself, right? That's how you know. Do you have autoimmune diseases that doctors can't figure out? Especially you women. You women have more than men do, but we men have our same problems. But you women suffer more because of your feminine energy with that when you come here. So if you're going to a doctor over and over and they're testing you for stuff and they're like, we're going to test you for this, and then you got lupus, so now we think you have this and that and this and that. We got to test you over here and over there and over there, and it just sucks. And here, take these pills. If you got that going on, that's another sign. Your vibrational pattern isn't fitting here, and it's causing problems with the DNA of your avatar. Okay. Yeah, right. Denise says, I get fat just looking at food. I do too. I walk by a cake. I'm not really, never been a sweets fan, but I look at a cake and go, oh, there was 5 pounds just looking at that thing. Right. So yeah. Right. So literally you'll find that you change, here's a cousin of mine. Okay. She's like my third cousin or fourth cousin or something like that. I don't know exactly what. Her husband's grandmother is my second cousin. Right. And like 5 years ago, she decided that she wasn't healthy. She was overweight. She wasn't much overweight because she's a little bitty thing. She's like 5'2", 5'3", and right now I think she weighs like 100 pounds or something. She's thin. She might weigh about 112, but she's a little bitty thing, small boned. And she was overweight, not healthy, had skin problems, and decided I'm going to start exercising. And over the course of that time, she got one of the bicycles. I think it's Peloton. In fact, I know it is because she talks about it. And she started riding. She took a picture of herself prior to in the mirror, selfie. That's what I look like now. And she's been documenting herself. And she changed so much from then till now. She completely changed all the food that she's eating. She gave up everything that was processed. She eats completely healthy. I know because she posts food porn all the time. Right? She's always posting the stuff she was eating, and I love everything that she eats, and I'm always commenting on it. She just posted that she had bison for the protein, fish and some veggies, and she posted it. And I was like, oh yeah, that's yummy. And so she completely changed, and then she talked about it as she was changing on how much better she felt when she got away from the processed foods and she started craving vegetables and home cooked food and being healthy. And the more she did that, the more all the weight dropped. But do you know, she went from just being a person that was posting about tired of this to working out to now she posts of positive affirmations for people. She never did that the entire time I've known her. For I think her kids are like 12 and 15 or something close to that now. So, so I've known her for like 20 years. She never cared to do any of that, and her entire life's changed. And now she posts about being healthy, working out, the clothes that she's wearing now, the food that she's eating now. And all of a sudden, in the last couple of years, it started one post maybe a month, one post every 6 months to something, and I watched her. Now it's like once a day she posts something positive for people, and she does more and more of that. So she's changed that much to where she's now contributing, and not just saying, oh, I'm cool and I'm eating the good food. And now it's, you too can do this. You look at this. You need to be this and that and this. And she's posting all this stuff. So she has transitioned and she's vibrating at a higher level, and she's becoming more awake, and she's wanting to post for people to see what she's doing is making a difference, and that they too can do what she did. That's a difference in her completely. She realizes how much she's changed in the couple of years that she's been doing this now. Do you see? And if you don't, this is why we teach journaling. If you don't write down a journal of who I am and what I thought and what I looked like when you start, you can't look back on that as readily and see who you were, and what you were thinking when you make the progress. Do you see? And having like a Facebook or one of these platforms to be able to document yourself in the stages of doing that, at some point you can go back and look at all your posts and go, wow, look where I was and look where I am now. You can see that about yourself. And that's why when we life coach, and in the spiritual sense, we teach the same thing, to have you journal, write down your likes, dislikes, what you eat, what you don't eat now. And then we have you write that vision board. Where do I want to be in 5 years? And then break it down. Where do I want to be in 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, all the way down to what are the things that I need to do now to change and set goals for yourself, so that you can then, along the way, 6 months look back on yourself, a year look back on yourself, 2 years look back on yourself, and the like, and find out how much you've changed. If you're involved in it and you're not documenting it, you don't realize how much you've changed. Do you see? And that's why we have you do that most of the time in some way. So you can always go back and look at the posts that you've done on like a Facebook, Penny, and see where you were a year ago or 2 years ago, Joanne said, when I went through my ascension, let me put it up on the screen for you guys that can read it, and I'll read it to you. For those of you listening on the MP3 broadcast, you can't read that. When I went through my ascension, I went through a lot of emotions, healing and clearing all that no longer serve me in this lifetime and previous lifetimes, meeting the ascended masters and having lessons, meeting the angels, attendance with the divine, and working and cleaning up the leftover negative vibrations from my ancestors. So getting everything out, that's part of the secret. I talked about that. To some people I was working with in the last couple of days. And I think I mentioned it on Wednesday, that from the 90s, they had the secret. And that was literally realizing all of the negative stuff that you have in your mind and in your brain and in your soul and in your psyche and in your experience, and moving that out. And you have to replace it because there's a void that's in there. If you take the negative energy out, there has to be energy there. So you have to then put in positive energy. So positive affirmations for yourself. And this is what Joanne's talking about, going through all of the layers of that shadow work within herself and her DNA, and the things that are like, me being an alcoholic, that's DNA. That's DNA from everybody in my family's an alcoholic. So not only is it in the DNA, but it's part of the ancestry, and then it's part of the physical circle that makes up the family unit, that most of the people drink alcohol all the time. And so there's a group of us that have broke away from that, and no smoking, no drinking. But we had to, those of us who went down that road had to fix those things about ourselves. And then there's some of us that chose not to. So the things that you eat and all the things that you do and making those choices, people are like, well, there's not enough time in the day. I can't work out. I can't. Yes, you can. Can't means won't. It can't means you're not organizing your life properly. When you make something a habit and you do it all the time, you set that time aside to do it every single day, you'll continue to do it. And you're more apt to do it if you continue to do it. You have to get past the first 30 days and then get past the first 60 days. Once you get past the first 30 days, you're more apt to finish the 60 days. And once you get past the first 60 days, you're more apt to continue doing that for the rest of your life. Because it's become a routine now. You're doing it at the exact same time of the day. So we teach people that with meditation, do it for 15 minutes and make that time. You have to make the choice to do that. It's just like to give up eating crap food. You have to make that choice. I don't want to be sickly anymore, and I don't want to eat this food. I love it, but all the good, healthy food tastes like crap. That's just not true. That's just not true. Okay. And that's what they want you to believe. The people who are selling you junk and crap food that is processed want you to believe that the fillers and flavor enhancers are not in them, and that because the truth is you just think it tastes good. It doesn't taste good to you. If they take those flavor enhancers out of there, it tastes like crap. It tastes like cardboard to you. But you don't know that because those things are in there, and they make your brain think it tastes really good. That's why if you eat some of the stuff, like I'm almost immune to MSG. Okay, that's monosodium glutamate. That's what people put in most foods to make you think it tastes good. If I eat something that has monosodium glutamate in it, when I first take the first bite, it hits the tongue and your brain goes, wow, that's really good. I'll go, wow, this is good. And the fact that I think that, wow, man, this really tastes good. I usually go, and I'll bet there's a ton of MSG in here. And usually if there is, when I take the next bite or the bite after that, that sensation for me goes away. And I don't have, oh man, this is really good every time I taste it. Most people don't have that. The effect of the MSG works on them no matter how many of those they eat. And so they consume more than they're supposed to because it's really good and it's addictive and you want to make that taste, that flavor again. To me, it's the first one tastes really good. The second one tastes good. The third one tastes average. After that, I'm like, this actually doesn't really taste that good. And then I'll look at the box. If I eat a cracker and go, wow, this is really good, man. It's the salt and the MSG or whatever flavor enhancer they have in it. It's usually MSG. Then I'll take the second one and go, wait a minute, and I'll pick it up. So I pick up the ingredients and look on that. If I hadn't already, I'll go, yeah, it's got MSG in there. So it doesn't taste good. My brain thinks it tastes good. And then I'll stop eating them. Other people just sit there and go, aren't these things really good? No, you're addicted to MSG. You don't know. Your brain is being tricked by the MSG or the flavor enhancer, because salt is a flavor enhancer and so is sugar and so is chocolate. That's why everything is salty, chocolate, and sugary in the United States, because all three of those are the biggest flavor enhancers and they're also mostly addictive, right? The salt, Steve, welcome, by the way. The salt, they add a ton of salt to fast food, which makes you get hungry, right? Sooner. And it also makes you thirsty. So then you drink the soda, which has flavor enhancers in it, and it makes you more thirsty, right? So it makes you hungry sooner. I've switched to organic as much as I can, and I end up eating less, absolutely, throughout the day. Yes, because you then stop eating when you're not hungry. If you don't have a lot of sugar and a lot of salt, you're not thirsty, because your body needs the sugar and salt to pass, or the water to pass the sugar and salt out of your body. So it bloats you up because it's trying to protect your body from the poison that is salt and sugar. And it's trying to get it out of your body. So if you take the salt and the sugar out of your body and you start eating organic with all the processed stuff and all the flavor enhancers, then your body will say, oh, I'm good. I don't need to eat anymore right now. So you'll only eat what you need. And so you end up eating less because you're not trying to eat so much because it tastes really good. And you're like, oh my God, this is good. Oh my God. And so you eat a ton of it. And then your body goes, oh man, I'm freaking thirsty. And if you drink the sodas, they're high in sugar. And if they're not sugar, then they're aspartame or one of those other things, which makes you thirsty. So everything that you get from a fast food restaurant makes you thirsty and hungry. So you eat more. That's actual fact. McDonald's was famous for that back in the 70s. They wanted people to be fat because fat people eat more food. That was a quote from the CEO. Okay. Hi, Steve, by the way. Steve said hi after making the comment. Hi, and I didn't say hi. I just started talking. I just blurted out Steve and started talking. So once you make that decision and you start eating healthy, you realize that the vibration of the food is what we call ascension food. It's a higher vibration, and it feels better when you eat it. You get more energy from it. Your body processes it better, faster, and gets more efficient and gets more energy from it. And then if you go and people go, well, that's just not true. And I'm like, I'll give you a taste test. I will, say, make you a hamburger here, and we'll buy a McDonald's hamburger. And then literally take a couple of bites of that McDonald's hamburger and tell me how it feels. Not how it tastes, but how does it feel while you're eating it? Or do you feel energy in that hamburger? Do you feel the energy from it? Or are you just getting flavor and salt? And then they're like, it's just a hamburger. You're right. Here, now take a bite of this hamburger. Take a couple bites of that hamburger. Oh, man, this is a really good hamburger. Why is this better than that? Oh, it's home cooked. Home cooked's always better. Yes, and you know why? Because the person who is home cooking it, they're cooking it with love because they're creating it. And so they're putting their energy into it. And if you're eating fast food, it's all processed. And the kids that are cooking that are only there because dad made them get a fucking job. So they don't care. They're just, yeah, whatever. Fucking break is coming up in a little bit. And I can get a hamburger and then we're going to go out and do this. And that. They don't care. So it's hurry up. Assembly line. I used to work at a McDonald's for real, not like the politicians who lie about it. I actually worked at McDonald's. It was one of my first jobs. Used to go ride the bus to the city buses to and from work, and I would smell like a quarter pounder with cheese. I smelled like hamburgers and French fries and ketchup. If everybody knew that I worked at a McDonald's because I smelled like McDonald's when I got on the bus, and I'm like, it's all over me. I cooked a quarter grill. That's that was my job. I was a cook, a chef at the quarter grill, and I made quarter pounders with cheese and quarter pounders. That's what I did all day long for 8 hours a day. So because of it, I smelled like the onions. I smelled like the ketchup. I smelled like the mustard. I smelled like the cheese. I smelled like the burgers. Not a joke. And every day I would go home. I was wearing my uniform, and I'd go home and smell like that. I'd get a shower and wash my uniform, and then come back the next day and not smell like it on the way to work and smell like it on the way home. Anyway. So you'll find that when you do that, that changes your now, and you will then not like that other food and you won't want to eat it. And you'll start making better decisions. That's your vibration moving up. That's you ascending. So it's the small things like that happens, right? One of my first jobs, Cassie said, was McDonald's too. Yeah. I don't remember. My first job was working at a gas station. I was an attendant at a gas station, pumping gas for people. Actually, before that, I was a newspaper guy. I delivered newspapers. So that was really technically my first job. That and mowing lawns, technically. Then I was working at a gas station. It had paper out. And then I think McDonald's was my first official job. So I was working for McDonald's for a while. And then I quit that. And I went to work going door to door trying to sell you solar panels. I did, seriously. Selling solar panels, and then what did I do? And then I started going global. That's when I was selling dope and working for the IRA, right? And then I was running guns, drugs, people, money, information. And then I was working. I had to have a mundane job, so then I was in retail. And a few other things in my life so that I had a mundane job so that I could have money and people would not suspect that, if you're out of work, then that guy's got to be a dope dealer or something. Where's he getting all of his money? So if I had a job that I went to and then on my off time was doing everything else, then people didn't notice that I did that, right? So, and then when you are trafficking stuff around the world, you don't have anything to where you can get in trouble for. I don't want to get too far involved in that. Not that I'm afraid of it anymore, because Ireland became free in 1997 and was recognized by the UK as a free and sovereign nation. So therefore, I just became a spy for that government. But it wasn't under this name, so you can look this name up, and it won't have any ties to the Irish government whatsoever. Because this name's not even my legal name. This is not the name that's on my birth certificate. Okay. It's actually very similar, though. I'm not trying to hide with this name. This name's just a pen name. Okay, so literally it'll change. Everything will change in your existence just from making that, and all the rest of that I mentioned will also happen. So let's continue with Ra, and Ra is kind of explaining that as well.
Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. These entities are not wanderers in the sense that this planetary sphere is their fourth density home planet. However, the experience of this service is earned only by those harvested third density entities which have demonstrated a great deal of orientation towards service to others. It is a privilege to be allowed this early in incarnation, as there is much experiential catalyst in service to other selves at this harvesting. 63.16 Questioner. There are many children now who demonstrate the ability to bend metal mentally, which is a fourth density phenomenon. Would most of these children, then, be this type of entity of which we speak? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 63.17 Questioner.
Okay, so literally, if you look back in time to the star children of 30 years ago or 40 years ago, the indigo kids of 30 years ago, and coming forward, they have different names for them just about every 10 years or so. But you see that there's a lot of people that are walking among you that have these incredible abilities. I was just watching, and I think I may have linked some of it to you guys. These people from around the world. There was a guy over here in the United States that was on one of the shows. I don't remember which one. It might have been The Voice, or it was either that or one of those, The Voice or America's Got Talent or Idol, one of those three. And he was playing the guitar, and he was insane doing all this stuff with the guitar. And there was another guy from a different country. I think he was from Brazil, and he was doing the same thing. And phenomenal playing the guitar and just, tapping his fingers and hitting his hand on it and playing it with his just insane, not a way that anyone played a guitar on this earth until about 10, 15 years ago. And I remember watching all these talent shows in the last 20 years and knowing that these kids that were coming in and doing these dances and doing this singing and doing this, these things with these instruments. I just posted one, I think, where these guys were using construction materials to play music. And if I didn't, I'll link it to you. But some of you, I linked it to you on Instagram last night. Where those guys were literally, one guy is just sitting with a wheelbarrow, and he's got rocks, and he's throwing the rocks against the wheelbarrow, and he's using that as an instrument. And another guy has got like piping. It's piping for water or for a sprinkler system. And he's got holes in it, and he's playing it like a flute, and it's just all kinds of. And there's other guys that have these tubes that go for underground when they do drainage underground on properties. You have these tubes, and he's got these tubes, and he's using rubber insoles from inside of a shoe, and he's playing them. And they're all playing all these instruments. You see this stuff all over the world. The kids are getting younger, and they have far more talent, and they're doing these things that are phenomenal to people that were around 40 years ago, 20 years ago. And it's becoming a commonplace. That upgrade that even science is going, there's this crazy, insane upgrade of the human genome that has happened. People throwing, being able to shoot. Look at basketball in the last 15, 20 years. guys like Steph Curry come into the league, and it used to be that the average person playing NBA would shoot maybe 4 3-point shots in a game, and now they're shooting 25, 30 3-point shots in a game. An entire team would shoot maybe 6 in an entire game. Now they're shooting 50, and they're making most of them. And that's caught on. And football players being able to kick a field goal when the longest field goal was 55 yards. They're kicking them 67 yards now. Football players being able to throw a pass 100 yards when there was one guy per decade that was capable of doing that in the 60s, 70s, and 80s into the 90s. And now you have guys that are doing it on every football team. You have the football players are bigger, stronger, and they ban steroids. So they're not on steroids. These guys are naturally bigger and better at what they do. And they're able to run faster and jump farther and everything. The bars are going up. Look at the X Games and how that's improved. It was nothing in the 70s, didn't exist until the 80s, and now it's in the Olympics. And these kids are doing incredible things on bicycles and motorcycles and skateboards and all of this stuff and downhill skiing and boogie boards and all of this that would never have been done 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Impossible for a human to do. Yet they're able to do it. Why? Because most of these people are already with one foot in the door into 4D, some of them further than that. And that's the upgrade that's happening to the genome that is this Earth. And so exponentially, if you were to take, say the Olympic basketball team from today that won the gold medal in the United States in this last Olympics and literally transport them back in time to 40 years ago, they would win against our own American team that might have been playing 40 years ago, probably outscore them 200 to 67. It's not because they're all doing drugs. It's not because they're all, we have better food now. We have lousier food in the United States today than we did 40 years ago. We were healthier in the 70s and 80s and 90s in the United States of America with our food. It didn't start getting crap until then, and it's gotten worse. That's why people are getting more sick, the people who are still eating that stuff. And the food, on the other hand, is not all steroid infested. And so why is it that these people who would have been vegetarians or vegans then weren't doing as good as the ones that are doing that now? Because their genome is different. Because their vibration is different. Because they're an upgrade. Because they're moving into 4D where it's more spectacular, the abilities that they have. And they're coming through that way. 68% of the population is not from this earth. All right, let's continue here. So, yeah, superhuman, right? I mean, the stuff Joanne said, superhuman, wow, they're truly blessed. So the people that are coming through are considered that now compared to 40 years ago. These people are superhuman compared to 40 years ago. What's changed? Nothing. Food has gotten worse. Our environment has gotten better, right? But the food has gotten worse. So what is it that has changed? What's changed is the genome. And that's not because aliens came down here and changed the human genome. It's not because the evil people are playing with our genome and creating the superhuman, because they've been trying to do that. They've been trying to do that for since technology. So since the 1920s, they've been trying to do that. Okay. And if they would have been able to do that, the Nazis would have made superhumans. They were trying it. And they would have made superhumans, and you would have saw this crazy advance of the human genome in the 1930s and 40s and 50s. You didn't see that happen. And it didn't happen in the 50s, and it didn't happen in the 60s. It didn't start happening until things started changing in the 80s. And that has nothing to do with pharmaceuticals. It has nothing to do with better vitamins. It has nothing to do with any of that stuff, because all of that is exactly as shitty as it was, except for there's more crap in our food now. But the people who are doing these spectacular things are not eating that crap food. They've stayed away from that. That crap food is meant to keep you from vibrating at that higher level, to be the potential that is in and unlockable in your DNA. That's what's going on with the crap food and the crap drinks and all of that. That's designed to lower your vibration, to keep you from expanding, to get better, because that's what's happening here. Okay? Because 4D is coming and these evil people don't want you in it. Okay, let's continue.
Is the reason that they can do this and the 5th and 6th density wanderers who are here cannot do it the fact that they have the 4th density?
Right. And Joanne said there's a woman that I know that can bend metal also. Okay, so I forgot to address that, right? So you're having more psychic abilities becoming more enhanced by people now, to where they are starting to be able to bend things. And it started with people grabbing it and being able to do it. And people were like, you shouldn't have the strength of that. You physically don't have the ability to do that. And how did you do that? And they're like, it's magic. I can't explain it. It's because it was in their DNA. It's not that they're stronger. It's that they're vibrating at a higher rate of speed. So they're able to do these things. They're moving into 4D, where the laws of 3D are not as effective to them, because that's the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to get better, and we're supposed to be beautiful, more beautiful than we are when we advance and move up. So that's starting to happen right in front of our eyes. It's just that most people don't see it, and they don't know about it because they don't want you to, and they don't want you to see it. They want you to get a sex change operation before you're 7 and eat the shit food and die of cancer by the time you're 18. So that way you recycle faster and never wake up.
Body in activation? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. Wanderers are 3rd density activated in mind/body/spirit and are subject to the forgetting, which can only be penetrated with disciplined meditation and working. 63.18 Questioner. I am assuming that the reason for this is that, first, since the entities of harvestable 3rd density who have very recently come here, they're coming here late enough so that they will not affect the, shall I say, polarization through their teachings. They are not infringing on the first distortion because they are children now, and they won't be old enough to really affect any of the polarization until the transition is well into transition. However, the wanderers who came here and are older and have a greater ability to affect polarization must do that affecting as a function of their ability to penetrate the forgetting process in order to be within the first distortion. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is quite correct. 63.19 Questioner. It would seem to me that some of the harvestable 3rd density entities are, however, relatively old, since I know of some individuals who can bend metal who are over 50 years old and some over 30. Would there be other entities who can bend metal for other reasons than having dual activated bodies? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. Any entity who, by accident or by careful design.
That's a good question. Let me stop there to answer. Woo Rider said, do you see the global shift in consciousness coming, or will humanity continue to falter? It is happening, and it will. They can't stop it. There's still going to be people faltering. That's going to continue because there is this struggle right now. However, it's inevitable. We've already reached the seminal point. That means that's the point of no return. Okay. The cascading effect has already happened. So what you're going to see going forward on this earth, no matter how hard they tried to experiment with COVID to see how many people would accept the lockdowns. And it was exactly the same dynamic that it was 100 years ago. You had 10% of the population absolutely refusing to be locked down, but moreover, it was a larger portion that also fell in suit. It wasn't everybody, even though they kept trying to tell you that everybody was agreeing to the lockdown, and that there's a small portion of people, that 10%, like didn't get the shot. When they revised that number, 380 million Americans, and that's not including the 20 or 30 million illegal aliens that are here, 380 million Americans, and they claimed that less than 10% didn't get the shot. And then later on, they revised how many people were actually inoculated in the United States. It was less than 100 million. So they claimed that only 10%, 380 million, that's only 3.8 million. Let's say 4 million people didn't get the shot, according to what they said during the time period, and that they were the ones who were spreading the disease. And they didn't get any of the shots at all. So then when they revised it earlier this year, and said, this is how many people actually got the shot and actually got boosters. It was 110 million people. So 110 million people total got 1 or 2 shots in this country. That's it. But they had you believing during COVID that it was only about 4 million people who didn't get the shot. And why aren't you guys getting in line and getting the shot now? Even though they were telling people, if you don't get the shot, you're going to get fired. And so the only reason that 110 million, even though some people say, no, they said like 300 million people got the shot. That's a lie. You can look that up on their own records. So even though they were forcing people to get the shot, they still didn't get half of the nation to get the shot by threatening them and their jobs. The only way that they got almost 200 million people was to threaten everyone's job, to force half of those people to get it. But it wasn't as many people as you think or as they claimed. So now they know they have to change something to get people to comply more, because their theory was that all you have to do is shame or control that 10%, and that everybody else will fall in line. That's been their theory always. You can look this up. It's not something that I'm making up. Okay. So what happened from that, and I'll get back onto your question, Wool Riders, right? I'll get back onto your question and answer that. What happened was that worldwide, that dynamic was the same. More people actually resisted than got the shots. And the ones who got the shot that didn't want it, but didn't want to lose their job, got it, but refused as soon as they could to get any boosters after that. And then immediately went back on that and said, not doing it, when everybody else started saying that. So now if they try that again, right now, literally they kept. Every year they're like, look out, COVID's coming again. And everyone's like, get off, right? Get off, not buying it anymore. Okay. So they have to now wait before they can try it again. So watch 2030, 2033. Okay. Most people are going to forget about it by 2030, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years from now. Oh, new disease that's very similar will pop up, and oh no, gotta get a shot. Everybody lock down. Watch them try it again. Okay. So what's happening, to get back to your question, right? Do you see the global shift in consciousness coming? It's already happening. And this is what Raw's talking about here, and what I've been talking about this entire week today. And I talked about it last Friday, knowing we were getting to this here. Okay. It is happening. So what you're going to see, because what is happening is that 4D is created in front of your eyes. You just don't know it until you do. 3D is falling away, and this way of life that you see currently on this planet by 2050 will be completely gone. Okay. There's going to be all new ways of everything being pioneered between now and then. 2030 is going to be one of the big shifts. We're in 2024, 6 years from now. You're not going to even recognize this place currently when it's here. It's still going to be the world the way we have it, but our monetary system is going to start shifting because our ideology is going to start shifting. Okay? They're going to be fighting as hard as they can. That's why they're trying to control everything and centralize it and go to digital currency and all of that, because they need to. They're buying up as much property as they can. Like I was saying earlier in the show, BlackRock and Vanguard and the Orion Group here in the United States, buying up all the property, buying up all the Bill Gates, buying up every farmland he can get a hold of in the United States, because if they don't own it all, they can't stifle all of us from going back to nature and growing our own food and getting away from being hooked on their stuff, on their processed foods. So they know it's coming, and they're doing things to try and force our hand. They're controlling everything, buying up all the houses so that you have to rent. You can't own one because they outbid you, and they buy it because they have so much money. So there's a pushback. So you're going to see strife going forward, and it's going to be a struggle because these evil people do not want to give up their power at all cost. And they're going to do whatever they can. If Donald Trump wins the election in the United States, you're going to see the largest civil unrest since the Civil War in the United States. Black Lives Matter and Antifa are going to all of a sudden come back out of the woodwork. They've been hiding for 4 years. There's been no protests, no burning of cities, none of that. You're going to see a city being burned down. You're going to see protests every single day. You're going to see him trying to topple every single thing. And you're going to see the news going, see, it's Donald Trump. He's chaos. We need to impeach him and get him out of here so that these people will quiet down. They're going to do that around the world. Okay. And they have the money to pay these people to do it. And taking over all of the schools in the last couple of years was their test to see how society was going to deal with them doing that and taking over the campuses. And everybody let them do it. Everybody sat back and just watched it on TV and didn't care. Okay. So they're going to do that. They're going to do it. Watch. Worldwide at the end of this month. Okay. Worldwide by the middle of November, you're going to see a lot of civil unrest starting worldwide because if they lose the power to the United States, they're going to lose their power everywhere else. And it's just going to start toppling. It's already toppling in other countries. Okay. If they lose the United States, that's one of the last places that they can have control. And then where America goes, other people will start to follow. Okay. So they're desperate now and they're trying to do everything they can do. So it's going to get worse. It's always darkest just before the dawn. So there's going to be a lot of strife going forward. So it's hard to answer that question that you had without saying yes to both, right? Because is there going to be a global shift or will there be more continued to falter? You're going to see both happening at the same time. Okay. You're going to see a lot of faltering, but it's for the change that is happening that's forcing their hand to get more violent and try and take more control. And the more they push, the more you're going to see people revolt and overthrow governments. And it's not going to be like Black Lives Matter and Antifa doing it. Some places it's going to be them trying to do it. Other places it's going to be freedom fighters that are going to overthrow governments like Iceland did. When Iceland kept pushing during the COVID lockdowns, the people said no. Their government said, we're going to come and get you. And they overthrew the government and tried them for crimes against their country and put a lot of them, almost all of them, to death, started their own government and have been free ever since. So they started a revolution, okay, that most of you probably don't know about on the planet because they don't want you to know that happened, okay? And other places, those people have been voted out of office and arrested and are being tried for crimes against their countries all over the world. And if you're in other countries in Europe, you might know about it from different things. Look at England. England busted out of the European Union over that crap. They're like, no, we're tired of you acting like a dictatorship. We're a free and sovereign country. Even though they have their own problems, you guys have your own problems over there with your government trying to arrest you because of words. In the words of Ricky Gervais, because of words, you're going to see more strife because you can't have change without it. But they can't stop it anymore. So they're going to get more violent. They're going to try and get more violent and more locking down and more control as any way that they can. So it's not going to be something. And if they can, which is what they're trying now, they'll get the Third World War going because that way they can nuke places, kill people, get all of you guys to be constructs and go out and fight in a war so they can blow half the planet away. That's what they're attempting to do now. They need a reset of the human population to shut us up. That's what they think is going to be the way it's going to be fixed. They don't realize the 68% of the population are wanderers. It doesn't matter if I'm alive in this body or if I get killed today and I get born in a few months and I'm born in Brazil or I'm born in Canada or I'm born in Russia. I'm still going to be this soul that's going to come into a new baby. And 20 years from now, I'm going to be me again. Do you see? 20 years, if I die today and I get born tomorrow, 20 years later, I'm going to be a grown-ass adult again. And I'm going to be doing exactly what I'm doing now in a different body in a different country, the same way I've been doing it for 10 generations on this earth. This is the resolve of what we're here to do that they don't want you to know about because they want you to think that you have one life only. And if you're lucky, you get to ride the bus with Jesus to heaven afterwards, as long as you wait here for him to come back. So 2030 is going to be a definite shift. But between now and 2030, it's going to be a little crazy. Okay, worldwide, it's going to be a little crazy. It's not going to be as crazy as the lockdowns from COVID, but it's still going to be politically upheaval and marching in the streets. And it's just going to be a matter of how much everybody's going to tolerate that crap like they did in the last 10 years, specifically the last 4 or 5 years around the world. People are already tired of it in other countries. They're not buying the COVID thing. They're not buying this wokeness. All of that's going to start waning because people are like, yeah, no, I'm tired of it. Not doing it anymore. Okay, so all of what evil does serves the all, even though they don't think it does. The more they push with their evil ways, the more people will push back against them. And the more people that will become aligned against them, even people that might be evil, might align against them because they're like, that's just wrong. I'm not going to allow that. So the shift happens the more. That's like when Ross said, when people say, what if aliens came down here, like in the movie Independence Day that came out back in the 90s, where an alien race, alien species showed up in spaceships all around the world and attacked Earth. Everybody on Earth will turn against those aliens. They know that. That's why they had that false flag alien invasion idea that they might still try and unleash on the Earth. Because then everybody will go, oh, wait, no, we have to fight against the big bad aliens. It's part of the narrative of how to take over a country. Tina, welcome, by the way. I didn't say hi to you. I see that you're saying something there, and everybody else is saying hi, and I didn't have my glasses on, so welcome. Okay, so, but 2030 is going to be a big milestone and a big shift, and then 2050, 20 years after that. So we're looking at in the next 25 to 27 years, and that oddly coincides with people are talking about this now. That oddly coincides with the 2,000-year anniversary of Jesus Christ. By the way, it also is the beginning of the 1,000 years when you look at the math from 6 days and 1 day of rest. Okay, 6 days, 1 day of rest, and when you put that to the 600 years and 100 years in the Bibles, and then when you go forward to the 3,000 year mark, and then going backwards 3,000 years, and then you come to find out that it is when the devil is unleashed on the earth for a time, that time is a 3,000 year time period, and then there's 1,000 years of the utopian society without the devil's control. That's now. That's beginning. That starts 2033. Okay. So by 2050, the control between now and 2030, the control by all of the evil oligarchs, the 1% that think they own the earth, that control the governments and everything else, you're going to see them fighting for their lives to keep control between now and 2030. Their grip on the world is going to weaken so severely that everyone will notice it by 2033. And then by 2050, they will no longer be in control. They'll still be here amongst everybody, but they won't be able to hide anymore because we're going to be 4D. So most of them who are really evil are going to try to kill as many people as they can and get themselves killed or kill themselves so they can move up and get out of there and not have to be in the 4D place on this earth anymore. So there's going to be less of them. So the dynamic right now that is 14% in service to self on this earth is going to drop drastically to somewhere between 7 and 9% on this earth. Won't be as high as 11% by 2050. Do you see? So there's going to be a huge transition between now and the year 2050 on this earth that is happening and that will happen. I'm just looking at what you guys are saying there. I don't know if you're talking to me in the chat. Joanne said, not sure that was a wise decision. Things are more expensive now than they were. Import most of our products, right? Well, you're talking about over in the UK. Well, yes, but that's a small price to pay for your freedom of not paying the tithing to the European Union. So you're right. It is a little higher right now, but when you renegotiate the tariffs, your guys' prices will come down a little bit. You'll see that you'll be better off for it. That's like over here when people are buying organic, we're paying, $1 more per pound or something, or 30 cents to 40 cents per pound for organic, but you find that it's worth it in the end because you have better food. So your products are a little higher. The same thing's going to happen here. Say if Donald Trump becomes the president again and puts tariffs for trading, you're going to see that if that happens, then you're going to see that Europe is going to start buying American products more. So that's going to affect you guys as well, because part of the deal will be that you guys will be selling more products in the United States, and the Europeans will start buying products from you too. So you guys will start sending products here more and sending products to the European Union, who are going to be forced to start buying British products. So you'll see that the prices will come down. I don't know if you guys know a lot about economics, global economics, and the way the commerce works on the planet, but they keep trying to scare you by going, if you put tariffs on, they raise all the prices. That only works if they don't, the tariff is put on. Like say when Donald Trump was the president, he told the Chinese that if you manufacture things outside the United States, we're going to put a 100% tariff on all your products. And people are like, as soon as they do that, they're going to charge us for that tariff over here in the United States. No, China started building them here in the United States because they didn't want because they knew that would kill their economy. So it wasn't done because he wanted to leave that in place. It was done as a threat to force them to make the stuff here so that it lowered the prices for everybody here and kept the people working here and kept our economy going. And if that was not the case, the way they claimed, why is it that when Donald Trump was no longer in office and Joe Biden got in office with the progressives, why did they not cancel those tariffs? They didn't. They kept them in place. They kept that threat on China in place because it was making money for the United States, even though they claimed and still do that Donald Trump is a lunatic and that would just create this high prices from China coming over here. It didn't. They know that. And they know that they didn't cancel the tariffs. They kept them in place because it kept China honest, and they're making more money here in the United States because of it. They know that. You can look that up. I'm not making that up. So the same thing will happen with you guys. It is a little more expensive if the European Union's trying to starve you out and kill you off and make you all decide to vote to go back into the European Union, which is what they've been trying to do since the UK left the European Union. All you guys got to do is make it worth their while. Don't let them to buy the products from Russia and from China anymore. Force them just to have, who else do they have to buy it from? They either make it amongst themselves or they start buying English products. Do you see? So if you guys become the better deal, they're going to not have tariffs on you anymore because your government will negotiate. Look, we'll sell you the products, but you got to remove these tariffs. Right. And then that'll lower the prices for you guys the products that you're making in your own country, because now you're making money off of the European Union. So that will give relief to you guys. Right. And if companies don't do that, your own government will go, you need to start lowering the prices or people are going to start buying products from America and not from here. And our economy is going to go flat. And America is going to go, we'll sell it to you. That's my point of why I said, if Donald Trump comes over here, because then he'll say, we'll sell it to you cheaper so you don't get screwed and they'll have to lower your prices. It's a supply and demand. If you have a high supply for the same products that are a little bit cheaper, and that's why China makes so much money because they make them so cheap that no one will buy your own products because they're buying all from China. And if you charge China more money for it and tell them you got to make them in our country, we'll let you sell them cheap, but you have to make them in our country. And then that lowers the price because you tell them, look, you can't charge us the same price because you're not shipping it. Now it's being made in our country, so you got to lower the price, and that's how you get the prices to get lower. And I don't know if you guys are understanding that or if it works for you or not, but that's how the economy works, and that's how you guys should take courses in global economics, because that's why in the turn of the century, the last one. 1904 or so, 1903 or 1904, Henry Ford said, if the people of the United States understood how the global economy works, there'd be a revolution in the United States today. He said that over 100, and this is 2024, that would be 112 years ago that he said that, and it hasn't changed. It's true to this day. All right, let's continue here.
Penetrates intelligent energy's gateway, may use the shaping powers of this energy. 63.20 questioner. Okay. Now as this transition continues into fourth density activation.
Wait, welcome, Rick. Okay, now I'll continue. I just saw Rick said, good day, soul siblings. Good day, Rick. Good on to you, mate. Let's go.
In order to inhabit this fourth density sphere, it will be necessary for all third density physical bodies to go through the process which we refer to as death. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 63.21 Questioner. Now, are there any inhabitants at this time of this fourth density sphere who have already gone through this process? Is it now being populated? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct only in the very, shall we say, recent past.
Okay, so that was 40 years ago that the fourth density was already starting to be populated in the not too distant past, right? Or did he say in the very distant past? Either way, that was 40 years ago. Things have changed since then exponentially. Okay. So Ra is saying, yeah, that's true that the fourth dimension is already being, this is why I say this to people all the time. If you go back on my shows, you hear me saying that 4D is already happening on this earth. You just don't see it. It's just slightly out of phase with this earth, but it's happening. You're dealing with people daily who are literally in both 3D and 4D. You just don't know it. I am. You just don't know it. Most of you are. You just don't know it. Because we're already blended. We've been moving for more than 40 years into that place. Literally, when I was 21 or 22, when I talked about this about my buddy Ron, who owned a shop called A Fairy Tale and wrote the book called A Fairy Tale, where he thought he was going crazy because all of a sudden he saw fairies flying around and they were talking to him. And he was like, oh my God, something happened and my brain broke and I've fucking gone crazy. That's the story he'll tell you. Oh my God. So he ignored them. He's running from them. You're not real. I'm not seeing you. Oh God. Crazy, silly. You are just have changed and now you're awake and you can see us. And he was like, you're not real. And for a long time, he was afraid, thought he was going crazy. And finally he said, okay, fine. So I'm not crazy. So tell me what's going on. And so then they told him what was going on and he realized, and they were saying then what's happening is there's a shift that's happening, and that all of the what is called the fairy folk, the we folk, had been already shifted away from our reality as we were solidified in the flesh, in all the physical on this earth. They were still here in that place of reality, which is 4D. Any of you who live in Ireland or over anywhere in that area of Europe, you know what I'm talking about with the fairy mountains. They stayed there. We're moving back now to a place where we're going to be able to see them again. They're not going to be new. Everyone's going to be like, oh my God, there's all this new stuff that wasn't here before. It's always been there. It's been out of phase with you and this place. It's going to be in phase again. And they were concerned that as we were moving into their realm, we were going to squash them out. That we were not changing enough to shift over to 4D, and that we were going to smash their 4D completely with expansion of our 3D. And they were like, you need to get people to wake up enough so they're shifting to us, not against us. Because what was happening is we were expanding, but we were not shifting for a long time on this earth, and we had to start fixing that. So exponentially since 40 years ago, things have now shifted to where we've made sure to change that narrative to where we're shifting everybody, because the idea prior to that was this old Christian idea of rapture where 3D was just going to end and there's going to be the left behind there and everything was going to shift into the 4D. And now we've decided that a long time ago, we decided that that's not what was going to happen. What we were going to do was we were going to bring everybody with us, and those people who were not capable would just, whenever they died in this life, if they weren't capable of moving into 4D, they would just go to a different planet that was 3D and get born on that planet, and they would never notice the difference. They wouldn't even notice. It'd be no different than reincarnating on this earth. You're veiled again, so you don't know that you were on a different place. You have no idea. So it's the natural order of the universe will continue to happen for the people who can't move into 4D, right? And then everybody else will just start shifting into 4D, and it's blended and moving over that way. Okay, let's continue here.
63.22 Questioner. I would assume this population is from other planets since the harvesting has not occurred yet on this planet. It is from planets where the harvesting has already occurred. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 63.23 Questioner. Then are these entities visible to us? Could
Is that Chandra? Is that how you say that, or Chandra? Welcome. Right. Ra created human design too. I'm not sure. Could you be more specific? Were you talking about Ra? Are you asking if Ra designed the human species? No, Ra didn't do that. 24% of the known universe is humanoid, just like this, only different colors, but mostly the same. Bipedal, 5 fingers, 5 toes, 10 fingers, 10 toes. You know what I mean? 4 fingers and a thumb. Ra did not create the human race. No alien entity created the human race. There's a lot that claim it. Everyone claims it. I know of 7 alien entities currently that visit this earth that say, we created you. And I'm like, no, you didn't. Just because this genome has markers from 7 different alien races doesn't mean that any one of those races created this genome. This genome was created by us, co-creating it because we like this. We took what we liked. We did this. We were not in a 3D, laboratory taking DNA and putting it together. Okay, we were in a 7D laboratory of energy as the creation, and we liked these aspects of these races that we had already created, and we mashed it together, and it became a humanoid. And we went, we could play with that. Polka dots on some, brown, orange, yellow, red, blue, green, and we made all these different humanoids and put them all over the universe. 24% of this universe, 24% of this Milky Way galaxy. So I'm not sure if that was the question that you were asking. Ra created human design too. If that's what you're asking, no, Ra didn't create it, but the Ra collective was part of it, because we're all part of it. You, me is included. We're part of it. We created it. You have people like the alien entity called Errol from 1947, Roswell, New Mexico. She claims they created the human species, but they didn't know the human species was here on Earth, and they didn't do it. And they got here, and then they were like, oh yeah, no, by the way, we created you. And if you watch the fifth, what was it? Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, or whatever that was called, the Fifth Kind, with Mila Jovovich. The alien entity said they created the human race. Some of the Greys claim they created us. Some of the Andorans claim they created us. The lizards, the Draco, they claim they created us. The Anunnaki, people say the Anunnaki, which doesn't even exist, created us. Who else? The Andromedans, the Nordics, every alien race, every alien species that has been talked about that's anywhere near the Earth, everyone says they claim they created us, right? But they didn't. Yeah, Ra created a personality test that's called human design. Yeah, okay. Well, that's a construct that is a test. It's not they didn't create the human genome. They mapped it. It's just like the Hebrew race, or the religion of the I can't think of what they're called right now. They're over in Utah. They did own Ancestry.com and 23andMe, and a couple of other where they were mapping everybody's genome. It doesn't mean they created the human race. Just because they have the biggest bank of human DNA signatures doesn't mean they created it. 100 years from now, will people try and say that they created it? Right? They might, but that they may even claim it. Well, how we have the proof? Look, we have every genome ever created. Yeah, and the people in Iceland have every seed from every plant on the face of the earth. That doesn't mean they created them all. It just means they collected them all because they're mapping the genomes. So Ra, and I can say that because I'm part of the Ra collective. Okay, literally. Ra, who as Ra from the Law of One, which I'm talking about here, I'm boots on the ground, someone who came down here as a wanderer that came from the Orion group of light, not the Orion Crusaders, but the Orion Council of Light. That's part of the Galactic Council of Venus. Okay, that's the mapping. It's a test for them mapping the genome because there are markers. Oh, I'm going to try and get really high vibe with the information here. It's a good thing you brought that up. Let's see how far I can go with this. There are markers. You're familiar with some that tell you who we are, the Patal in the Rh negative factor in the DNA, which science has shown, not fringe science, but regular science has shown that DNA did not come to this earth and it does not exist on this earth past 10,000 years ago. There are genetic markers for the human genome that map when in time every species, every race, the African race, the Asian race, the European race, the Greeks, the Romans, when they appeared for the first time on this earth and then started breeding with all of the people on the planet. They actually represent alien species, okay? And some of the people in 4D and 5D are interested in the evolution of the universe and the effects of things that go on a planet because of things like, say, when the Anunnaki got here and they screwed things up, when the Orion Crusaders got here and they screwed things up. What was the representation that's in the DNA that is currently now on the planet because of their influence? What changed in the genome, when, how, and why? And then, and the reason that we need to know that information is that when we get boots on the ground here, we need to be able to fix those things that were changed in the DNA to rewrite the DNA genomes on the Earth so that it changes the vibration of the planet to fix what's going on. I can't believe they let me tell you guys all that. This is the first time I've ever said that out loud, right? Right. So what you're talking about is the mapping of the sequences of the genome through history. That's part of the temporal war, through history, to see what was changed when the Orion Crusaders got here and they made changes to history, because it's not just in the physical. Everything in the physical, as below, so above. Everything that as within, so without. Everything in the physical is also a representation in the spiritual, or whatever's in the spiritual is has to be represented in the physical. So when an alien species comes down here, they change the dynamic of the vibration of the planet, and they become part of the ecosystem. And then if they start breeding with the people here, that genome gets transferred to all the people. So if a group of people show up here, say, that are evil, this is why Ra talks about that. If an entire species shows up here all at once in an invasion, everybody down here, even if they're 10 different races and species, will turn against them to defend this planet. Not because this is our home and they're invading, but that's part of the psyche of it, but because they're an invading force and they're threatening the genome that's here. So instinctively, you will align with people that you were fighting with yesterday and maybe evil, and they'll both be like, we got to stop these guys. So because of that, any influx that changes things down here, if there's a nefarious act being done, to undo it, you have to understand it. And so what you're referring to is not the creation of the human genome, but the mapping of the human genome, because those of us who came down here on boots on the ground to fight for the last 10,000 years or more had to have this knowledge so that we could know what to fix, not just the vibration of this place, not just the vibration of Gaia and what happened to her, but what was done to the species as well. And if you doubt that, look into the vibratory examples of people looking at the DNA of the human genome and mapping it from prior to and now, from nuclear weapons being detonated across the earth, and how the scientists won't tell you this readily to the world on the news, but they know that the human genome has been damaged and changed over the course of the last 75 years, 80 years, from all the testing of the hydrogen and then nuclear explosions and the radiation being involved in this. I know someone personally who his grandparents survived Nagasaki or Hiroshima from the radiation that was inflicted on them when the United States dropped those bombs. And come forward in time, he has a higher tolerance to radiation than the normal human genome. And I know this because I personally know his wife, and their son from him, they found out, has a higher resistance to radiation. And when they discovered that, they talked to the doctors and went, what's going on with this? And they said, oh, well, those people that survived Nagasaki and Hiroshima from that, and the people from Chernobyl who didn't die from cancer from the radiation, their offspring, the evolution of the human genome, it changed them, and they have a higher tolerance to radiation than anyone else. Raw talked about that when Don was asking about the Bigfoot, Sasquatches, and that Raw said they are designed to have a higher tolerance to radiation, because if the people of this earth blow themselves up with nuclear weapons, then we're going to take the souls and move them into the Bigfoot and have Bigfoot be the population of the people, because they can still survive on this planet with the higher radiation. How do you think they came to that conclusion? To know that, studying through science, to know the answer to that. Okay. So let me look and make sure that I see what you guys are talking about here. So if you're making any comments, because I've been talking, right? Let's see, right? Didn't they, the human race just, what is that? I love Raw, and I had to create they created a cool test with them. Well, they did that so that we do that before we get to a place that has been attacked and taken over by evil people, because we know that that's their tactic, is to change the genome. That's why that when the human race fell, they were living for 1,000 years, and then everybody was dying before they were 40. And it's taken the last 1,000 years to get the people to now extend their life expectancy. The average person in the United States of America during the Revolutionary War in 1776 lived to be 35 years of age. The average, and that's the worldwide. And their height was 5'4". Now worldwide on the planet, the average person is living to be 85 years of age, and the average human is 6 foot tall, and some men are taller than that. So the average man in 1776 was 5'4", and the ceilings in all the houses in the United States and most of around the world was 6 foot tall. George Washington was 6'1" and had to duck to walk in every house, because the roofs, unless they had vaulted ceilings in the government houses, he had to duck in his own house. Now all the houses are 9 foot. They went from 6 foot to 7 foot, and now they're 9 foot tall worldwide. Why? Because people are now, the door thresholds used to be 5'8", and now they're at 7 foot, and they're going to start raising those because people are getting taller and we're living longer. Well, we weren't eating better now. No, we were eating better in the past because we didn't have crap in our food than now, right? So all of that is stuff that people don't think about, that we map out when we come to a place like this that's been taken over and damaged by evil. We have to fix it. And so it happens on every level, not just coming down and waking people up. We have to change the genome. We have to change history itself. So we have to really actually rewrite history. And that's where you're seeing these time dilations and time shifts, where small things are changing here. And if you're able to perceive them, they call them the Mandela effect. If you're able to perceive them, and then you look on the internet and find out you're not the only one that perceives something, and that it's the same something that millions of people worldwide are perceiving, that's one that we did. And you're perceiving it, and so are they, because they're actually wanderers as well, whether they're aware of it or not. Hopefully that's helping what I was saying, right? They're doing these DNA genome stuff, and worse, to adrenochrome harvesting. Well, this is what Woolwriter is saying. Well, see, that's what they want you to think. They want to take credit for all of these changes. They want you to think that it's them doing it and it's nefarious. So you live in fear, and you can help manifest them to do it. Okay. Is there adrenochrome stuff going on? Yes. Are they trying to create more adrenochrome in the human genome so they can kill you and harvest it out of your brain? Absolutely. Are they responsible for 99% of all the changes on the earth? No, because if they were, it wouldn't be going the way it's going. And think about that now logically. If they were making these changes to the earth for nefarious reasons, we'd be getting stupider, dumber, and more asleep and easier to control. That's not what's happening here. We're getting smarter. We're getting not stupider. We're getting smarter. We're getting better. We're getting faster, and we're getting harder to control. That's not them doing it, right? I mean, think about that. If you're going to do that, you're never going to unleash. Let's take a look at this from an adult standpoint. If I want to enslave an entire population, I want them dumb and easy to control as fast as possible. I don't care if they live to be 1,000 years old. They got to be asleep and they got to be easily mind controlled. Okay. And then I can do any other enhancements that are not going to change that part of their DNA. So if that's the case and what you're saying is true and that evil is in charge and they're doing all of this to us so they can get more adrenochrome from us, why are we getting out of control? Why are we all waking up? Why are we no longer in their control? Why are we able to resist them? And why are they more afraid and why are they more desperate? Oh, because they screwed up. So what you're saying is that they're that dumb that in creating what they thought was the better way to get to harvest more of us and control us, they screwed up. They would be trying to kill us off as soon as they could if they did that, and that's what they're trying to do. So they would be trying to dumb us down. That's what they're trying to do, and it's not working. Why? Because they're losing, because they've lost this place. Do you see? So it doesn't stack up to scrutiny, right? Some say that our calendar is off by about 1,000 years. That's unimportant. That's unimportant. The calendar is shifting back. Okay. Our calendar, it depends on the calendar that you're going to count it by. Right? By the Hebrew calendar, this is the year 3000 something. Okay. It just depends on the calendar that you're using. So it doesn't matter what our calendar is off by, even though it is off. You're correct. Because we're supposed to already be in 4D and had all these upgrades. So the truth is we have been stifled, which has slowed things down. Okay, so you're not wrong in saying that our calendar is off by 1,000 years. Why? Because the time dilation of past, present, and future being separated depends on third dimensional reality. It's the only place that actually works. It's done on purpose because we have to have we're trying to know what it means to live and die. You can't die if there's no time. So you have to grow old. There has to be time so that you are born, you live, you get older and you grow up, and then you get older and older and older, and then you cease. So if you take us outside of time, then there's no purpose for the human body to age, because then you're just energy and you just are forever. So this place was created as an ecosystem so that we would be born and have a finite amount of time with this physical body before we had to recycle into a new body. When the human species fell, away from the creator, getting more evil and more locked into the matrix, our life expectancy got shorter because time got longer. So our life expectancy got shorter because we were more solidified in it. So in that respect, it's taking us longer for us to get through time. So our calendar is off compared to the old calendar when we all lived to be 1,000 years of age. Now when we fell, we were dying at 30 years of age. So if you're calculating by the old calendar, we're absolutely out of time. But we're moving back to that. So what's going to happen is we're just going to expand. We're already doing that. We're getting taller. We're living longer. And somewhere around 2060, the human species will probably live to be 200 years of age instead of 80. Do you see? So we're already moving back to that. We don't like the idea of 1,000 years. So we've decided that it's going to be somewhere around in the 120s to 150 range. And then if we get kind of frisky with it in the future, we'll get further out. So you're going to see that people are going to start living on average 85 years, 90, 95, 100, 110, 120. And because we're vibrating at a higher level and moving into 4D. So the time will shift back, is my point. When we fix things, it's going to blend back to where it was or close to it. So time is relative to our perspective anyways. So that's why I started with time. It doesn't matter, because it doesn't truly. We create time here in this place, and we create how long things live and how short they live by the more in service to others people are, the longer you live. The more in service to self you are, the shorter your life expectancy. So the calendar year may seem the same, but time is going to shift for us, and we're going to live longer. And so eventually we'll readjust, and you just won't notice it. You're not even noticing it now. Most people aren't. Most people didn't notice that all of a sudden my life expectancy went from when I was born in 1967, I was probably going to live to be about 60. Now I'm expected to live until I'm almost 80, and I probably will. Okay. So was there somewhere along the line where all of a sudden I went, I'm going to live longer? No, because I didn't notice it. Neither did anyone else. We're just living longer. Each generation is living longer because we're fixing the timeline, and we're fixing people, and we're fixing the genome. All of that was mapped. So, yeah, I hope that's helping. Let's continue with this. If you guys have any questions, pop them up there. Otherwise, I'll just start playing raw again here because it's getting later. I'm going to have to go soon. So let's see if we can get through this session, okay? If not, we'll start wherever we leave off next week.
And I see one of them. Would he walk upon our surface? Ra, I am Ra. We have discussed this. These entities are in dual bodies at this time. 63.24 Questioner. Sorry I am so stupid on this, but this particular concept is very difficult for me to understand. It is something that I'm afraid requires some rather dumb questions on my part to fully understand. I don't think I'll ever fully understand, but inaudible even get a grasp of it. Then as the fourth density sphere is activated, there is heat energy being generated. I assume this heat energy is generated in the third density sphere only. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is quite correct. The experiential distortions of each dimension are discrete. 63.25 Questioner. Then at some time in the future the fourth density sphere will be fully activated. What is the difference between full activation and partial activation for this sphere? Ra, I am Ra. At this time the cosmic influxes are conducive to true color green core particles being formed and material of this nature thus being formed. However, there is a mixture of the yellow ray and green ray environments at this time, necessitating the birthing of transitional mind/body/spirit complex types of energy distortions. At full activation of the true color green density of love, the planetary sphere will be solid and inhabitable upon its own, and the birthing that takes place will have been transformed through the process of time, shall we say, to the appropriate type of vehicle to appreciate in full the fourth density planetary environment. At this nexus, the green ray environment exists to a far greater extent in time/space than in space/time. 63.26.
Okay, so that was 40 years ago, right? So that is the change that's happening now. People are coming through more green ray, heart chakra, and vibrating at that level, and that's changing everything. Okay? And as that shift is happening, those people who are fully locked into the lower three chakras in service to self, they're fighting back as hard as they can to try and keep everybody else down in the lower three chakras at all costs, with everything they can do, with all the programming. And people are still going, no. That's why the younger generations that are coming through are not locked into the television, or not locked into the legacy news media. You're seeing the death of legacy news around the world. By 2050, legacy news will no longer be on television. They're going to change their programming and become something else because they're going to have to. It's already waning. It's already, the majority of the people between the ages of, 1 and 30 do not watch legacy news at all. Okay? They don't get their news from that. They get their news from the internet. That's why you see legacy news trying to get on the internet and getting people's attention, because they're already starting to transition themselves to giving you legacy information on those platforms, because no one's tuned into these channels on television. Only older people are. And the only reason why they're still doing this is because there are more older people alive, because they're living longer, than there was 40 years ago. So they're holding on to those people to keep them as long as they can. But as they start dying off, and this generation behind me starts growing up, my generation was the first one we stopped watching that shit. Okay. And the other people are just like, I don't watch that stuff at all. I don't pay attention to them at all. The way of life is consumed by that. Their way of life is consumed by that. It is that. Without that, without the televisions, they've had to try and figure out how to get onto the media now catching up. And they're trying to figure out how they can do it. But people are still, because they weren't exposed to this and they weren't hypnotized by it, when they try to do this on social media, people go swipe. The younger people swipe. They don't care to watch it. They don't want to. So they're trying to figure out, how do we capture them now? And that's why what they're doing is hiring them to go and promote their candidates all over the world and get them onto legacy media, because they're trying to get your attention and pull you into their matrix. Do you see? And it's not working as well as they want it to. And they're going, what are we going to do? So now they're trying to figure that out. And they're like, kill them all off. Start a third world war at all costs. Recycle them so they come through, so we can get a hold of them and get them back onto what we want. And in the meantime, we got to figure out how to get their attention. So when they come back through as children, we get them brainwashed. So that's why they're going to the schools and they're teaching you in the schools that way. And that's why they were trying to do that with the lockdowns and getting kids on the computers, and the adults can't watch how their kids are being taught. Why? Because they were trying to brainwash them with the computers, controlling them, because they're trying to figure out how they can get control of the kids. So they're going after them in the schools to try and brainwash them, to get them to do what they want. But they still don't have them as well as they did my parents and the parents before them, your grandparents and great-grandparents. So they're trying to figure out how they can get control of them, and they're resisting them because they don't realize that most of them who are coming through are actually wanderers. And they refuse to believe that there is a spiritual. It's all bullshit. So everything I'm saying in their mind is just crazy. I'm just crazy talk, because none of that exists, because they can't have it exist. Because if everybody thinks that exists, then people are going to go, then why am I listening to these people over here that are 3D when I could be expanding my consciousness? They can't have this. They want me to shut up and anybody like me. Period. They need a reset. And it's not going to happen because they can't anymore.
Next questioner, could you describe the difference that you are speaking of with respect to time/space and space/time? Ra, I am Ra. For the sake of your understanding, we will use the working definition of inner planes. There is a great deal of subtlety invested in this sound vibration complex, but it, by itself, will perhaps fulfill your present need. 63.27 Questioner, I will make this statement, and you correct me. What we have is, as our planet is spiraled by the spiraling action of the entire major galaxy, as the big wheel in the sky turns and our planetary system spirals into the new position, the fourth density vibrations become more and more pronounced. These atomic core vibrations begin to create, more and more completely, the green, that is the green core vibrations complete more and more completely the fourth density sphere and the fourth density bodily complexes for inhabitation of that sphere. Is this correct? Ra.
Right before he answers that, right? Some of us are built for that, right? Cassie said, I stay away from the news. I just get my info from Leo. Some of us were built to come here to be able to do that, and I'm immune to it. So when I see it, I don't see it. I'm awake. I'm unveiled. So I don't see it from the perspective. None of their Jedi mind tricks work on me, right? I just laugh at them. So I watch all of the channels, and I pay attention to what everyone is saying and what's going on. And like the adult in the room, when you have more than one kid, you know this. You hear craziness going on in the other room, and the kids are fighting, and you go in there and you go, what's going on? And they both start screaming at you, and they both start yelling, he did it, Jamie did it, no, he did it. She did it, no, he did it. And I didn't do anything. I was just sitting there, liar, And they're both going to say they were the victim, and neither one of them did anything wrong, but yet the other one was beating on them. The only way that you can figure out what's going on is you have to separate them. Otherwise, they're just going to yell past each other. So you have to separate them, right? Go to your room. I'll talk to you in a minute. And then you set one down and you go, tell me what happened. Now go to your room. And then you go get the other one, or you go and visit them in the room. What happened? They're both going to lie to you. They're both going to tell you that they were doing nothing and the other one did it and it was their fault. What you're going to find out is what actually happened. Okay. What happened? They both got into a fight. Why? Okay. You're not going to know which one's lying to you and which one's not. Right? That comes in time when you get to know your kids. One of them is going to be in service to self and one of them is going to be in service to others. Not always. But when they're children, they're going to lie and say, I wasn't doing anything. I was just sitting there. Eventually, if they're in service to others, they'll go, okay, well, yeah, I took his toy. You'll get one that'll admit it. You start realizing that one's in service to others. Is this one just lost or is this one actually in service to self? But you'll get the true story. And if you don't, because they're both lying, as the adult, you'll go, okay, just stop it. Right? You still don't know what actually happened, but you know that they were beating on each other and each one said the other one did it. So you don't do that to him and you don't do that to her, period. But I didn't. Okay, look, I don't know because you're both saying you're claiming the other one did it. And I don't know which one of you is telling me the truth and which one of you is lying to me. So right now what I'm saying is get along. And over time, you're going to learn which one is lying to you if you're the actual adult. You're going to see which one is not telling the truth because they're always going to be the same way. You're going to see they're self-serving unless you're completely not awake either. But if you are, as an adult, you're going to just want peace in the house and you guys got to get along and you're not going to pick a side. Okay. So that's what you have to do with the news agencies in the world. Some of us are capable of doing that. And that way other people don't have to, right? Some people are built to go to war, so other people don't have to. Some people will choose to go to a war and like it because they're good at it. Those are called mercenaries. And then they do that as a job. They don't mind killing people. They're okay with it. They can, hey, pay me money. I'll kill anybody. I don't care, right? They become hitmen, whatever. Same thing. Doctors doing surgery on people. I wouldn't want to do surgery on somebody. I'm not built for that. Seeing that psychologist, some people will do crap jobs because they are okay with it. Some people will do jobs that are evil, nasty. Just think about, there's a guy on television that has a commercial that says, I did over 200,000 autopsies in my life. Would you want to operate on a dead person 200,000 times or even 20,000 times to find out what, but that guy did it for a living, still doing it. He's on a commercial on television for something. I don't even remember what it for. I just remember going, wow, that's a crazy number of autopsies that man has done in his lifetime. Okay. But he's okay with that. And he wants to figure out why and how people died. So he's okay with cutting up their body and figuring it out. I'm one of those people that is designed to be able to watch the news, not be affected by it and get caught up in their rhetoric and get lost in the stress. I watch it and go, the game is afoot. And then Cassie will tell you, I actually say that with some of the people that are not in here, that are not on here, where they're also tacticians and we communicate in an encrypted app and we're always laughing and the game is afoot, man. Look what's going on in the world right now. And we laugh about and giggle about and share our ideas of what we think these crazy people are up to there, because that's our job, to be those tacticians, to figure that out and to know what they're about and to communicate with each other and bounce the ideas off of each other. And so some people don't have to, and Cassie doesn't have to because she knows that I'll go post some shit for her to look at, and she'll go, or I'll just tell her what's going on when we have a meeting, and she'll go, all right, so what's going on? I'll go, this is what's going on. We used to get together and do that. Peter Coyle, if he was here, he'd tell you that. We'd get together and talk about pre-COVID. We knew it was going to happen. Most of you didn't. We knew about it. We were warned about it. We knew what was happening. We knew it was coming. And we were getting together and talking about when it was going to roll out, how it was going to roll out, what was going to happen, and who we needed to talk to and convince and calm down so that everybody wouldn't freak out and destroy themselves on the earth. And we had to work really hard behind the scenes across the world to keep people from freaking out and thinking the world was ending, because everybody thought the world was coming to an end. It was kind of scary for a minute, right? Okay, so let's continue here.
I am Ra. This is partially correct. To be corrected is the concept of the creation of green ray density bodily complexes. This creation will be gradual and will take place beginning with your third density type of physical vehicle and, through the means of bisexual reproduction, become by evolutionary processes, the fourth density body complexes. 63.28 Questioner. then are these entities of
that stuff is going to be way in the future that I was talking about past 2060, when the human genome will start to change, is what Ross talking about here. That'll be going forward when we solidify 4D completely, but that's going to be 100 years from now. What he's talking about here. Let's continue. So he's talking about an asexual being that procreates in that respect. That's going to be when we merge the male female back together. That's a long time away in our genetic ideology and transformation. But we got a lot of work between now and 2050 just to get this place into 4D, and then after that we'll evolve into what he's talking about here.
Which we spoke. The third density harvestable who have been transferred. Are they the ones who then will, by bisexual reproduction, create the fourth density complexes that are necessary? Ra, I am Ra. The influxes of true color green energy complexes will more and more create the conditions in which the atomic structure of cells of bodily complexes is that of the density of love. The mind/body/spirit complexes inhabiting these physical vehicles will be, and to some extent, are, those of whom you spoke, and, as harvest is completed, the harvested entities of this planetary influence. 63.29 Questioner, is there a clock-like face, shall I say, associated with the entire major galaxy of many billions of stars so that as it revolves, it carries all of these stars and planetary systems through transitions from density to density? Is this how it works? Ra, I am Ra. You are perceptive. You may see a three-dimensional clock face or spiral of endlessness which is planned by the logos for this purpose. 63.30 Questioner, I understand that the logos did not plan for the heating effect that occurs in our third density transition into fourth. Is this correct?
Before he answers that, Cassie, if you remember, I don't know if you were exposed to Ray talking about that in the chat, but she talks about the clock face and has since forever. She talks about the clock face and how everything is the clock face, because it is, right. And that's what he's asking. Is it like a clock face with its in? Yes, because there's your 12 dimensions and the one in the center, right? Like Jesus and the 12 apostles, right? And that's why it was done that way. And so everything is the clock face and the controller 369 infinity. So if you look at the clock face of a clock, it's literally dimension 1 through 12, and then 13 is the one, is in the center, the controlling factor of all the universe. So the evolution moves through that pattern, and that's what Ra was answering when he was asking. And I think you remember that Ray was talking about it's the clock face, and she's right in what she says. But she says it so nonchalantly. She's like, it's the clock face again, because that's the spiral. That's what he's talking about right here. So let me rewind that. You can hear it. And then think about everything that Ray says and how a matter of fact she says it so simply, but never gets into all the details of what that entails or what she means. It's the clock face again. Even Stephanie said that, right? In our chat, in the encrypted chat. It's the clock face again. Because that's the spiral. That's the spiral, the golden mean ratio. So let me back that up a couple seconds so you can hear Ra and think about all the conversations we had and that you've heard of, and even Peter talking about the clock face and what that means. That's where people don't understand how important. Whenever I mention it, if Peter were here, he'd start typing in all the mathematical equations and the pyramids and stuff in the chat if he were here right now, talking about that and all the symbols. So let me back it up a little bit here and we'll play this again.
Questioner, is there a clock-like face, shall I say, associated with the entire major galaxy of many billions of stars so that as it revolves, it carries all of these stars and planetary systems through transitions from density to density? Is this how it works? Ra, I am Ra. You are perceptive. You may see a three-dimensional clock face or spiral of endlessness which is planned by the logos for this purpose. 63.30 Questioner, I understand that the logos did not plan for the heating effect that occurs in our third density transition into fourth. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct except for the condition of free will, which is, of course, planned by the logos as it, itself, is a creature of free will. In this climate, an infinity of events or conditions.
Yeah, Cassie said, those of you listening on the MP3 broadcast, you can see me pointing and putting up what she said on the screen, right? She said, yeah, it's the wheel of life. Yes, Yes. All right, let's continue here.
May occur. They cannot be said to be planned by the logos, but can be said to have been freely allowed. 63.31 questioner.
Wait, before he finishes that, let me put up the other part. She said yeah. Her and I talked about the controller, the knights of the round table, the spirals, the clock face. Yeah, all of that was done the way it was done in that spiral. Literally, the knights of the round table sitting in the round table and having a circle, and everyone's like, well, that has to do with no head of the table, and it has more to do with nature and the 369 than it does with that semantical ideology. That's what Cassie was talking about right there. Let's continue here.
It would seem to me the heating effect that takes place on the planet is analogous to a disease in the body and would have as a root cause the same or analogous mental configuration. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct, except that the spiritual configuration as well as mental biases of your peoples has been responsible for these distortions of the body complex of your planetary sphere. 63.3.
See, and that has to do with the lower vibration changing the genome, which we were talking about earlier. And so we mapped the genome so that we know when specifically and when it happened, how it happened, and when it was the influx and where it was, and then we know what we need to repair, just not only in the physical but in the spiritual and in the astral, so that we can fix all of it together, so we can change the course of history. Yeah. Change history and the course of history.
2 questioner. When the third density goes out of activation and into potentiation, that will leave us with a planet that is first, second, and fourth density. At that time there will be no activated third density vibrations on this planet. Am I correct in assuming that all third density vibrations on this planet now are those vibrations that compose the bodily complexes of entities such as us, and that is the sum total of third density vibrations on this planet at this time? Ra, I am Ra. This will be the last full query of this working. This instrument has energy left due to transfer, but there is discomfort. We do not wish to deplete this instrument. May we say that this instrument seems in better configuration, despite attack, than previous workings? To answer your query, this is incorrect only in that in addition to the mind/body/spirit complexes of third density, there are the artifacts, thought forms, and feelings which these co-creators have produced. This is third density. May we answer any brief queries as we leave this instrument? 63.33 questioner. Is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact? Ra, I am Ra. You are conscientious. All is well. We leave you now, my friends, in the glory of the love and the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the infinite creator. Adonai.
Okay, so we got through the entire session. So literally the transition that is happening 2030, 2050 are going to be the really big transitions that people will notice the changes. Right now it's changing and people aren't noticing it. Some people are, because they're starting to see that people are getting tired of things. They're starting to eat healthier. People are starting to wake up more and more. And so then they're going to have a lot of questions, right? And people are already having a lot of questions. That's why people like myself are doing what we're doing here. And we're going to be moving into a different phase of what we're doing here, because we're needed now on a different level here to answer more questions. That's why I put my book out, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. Let me put that up on the screen, for those of you around the world, that you can take a look at it in the MP3 broadcast. You can see the picture of my book on the screen. If not, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. You can look that up online. It's on sale worldwide online right now. You can buy that. And that is going to explain a little bit of what's going on, to give you an introduction into the reality about this place and what's happening here, and what you need to know to upgrade your DNA, to upgrade your genome, to start waking yourself up and pierce the veil, to change this vibration and move yourself into a 4D place, because that's where everybody's going to be going, whether you like it or not, whether you do it or not, doesn't matter. It's going to change. It's going to happen. It is happening, and it's going to happen. And you don't need to be spiritual. You don't need to be religious. You don't need to be anything. All you need to do is decide that you want to be in service to others, and it's going to affect you, and you're going to start waking up. That's just the way things work. And if you're not, and you're completely living in the physical and you're trapped there, then when your bodily function ceases and you die, you'll go to a different planet. And you won't notice the difference. I mean, you will when you're dead, because you'll be a spirit then, you'll be a soul, and you'll design where you're going to go. And then when you get born and you're veiled again, you'll never even have any memory of even being on this earth or being a human being. You'll be whatever it is that you're going to for whatever planet that you're on. And then you'll just continue with your evolution until you do wake up and transition to fourth, and then eventually into fifth, and then to sixth, and all the way up until where you end up back to the source. Okay, that's just the way the ecosystem works. And I know that's foreign to some people, but most people who are still listening to me speak now, if you've been here to listen to this whole thing to get here, then I'm preaching to the choir. This isn't brand new information to you that I'm giving you. And if it is, and you made it this far, good for you. You're waking up and you don't know it. If you made, how long have I been on the air here? 3 hours and 5 minutes, 3 hours and 4 minutes. If you made it through all the way here and you're just hearing for the very first time this knowledge that I'm giving you, good for you for staying this long to get to hear that you've never thought about that knowledge. And you're like, wait, what did he just say? That's crazy. Right? Okay, guys, I love you guys. I got to go. It's 6 p.m. I got to get my mom in the shower and then get dinner on the table for her and I, so that we're done with dinner by 6:45 or so. So we're not eating so late. All right. I love you guys. This has been Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show. Some of you I'll see in the chat. Some of you I'll see on in the chat and on Wednesday. And some of you I won't see again until next Friday. And some of you I won't see at all, because you're listening on the MP3 broadcast somewhere on the planet and you're not communicating with me directly. Although I am on 3 platforms that you can do that. And if you need questions, or if you have other questions that you want me to work with you and figure that out, or if you have a podcast out there and you want me to be a guest on your podcast to speak, to talk about this, get in contact with myself or some of the people in our chat to get in contact with me, to get your people in contact with me. And then I'll come on your guys' show and talk about this. Even if you want to attack me and call me crazy, I'll still get on there and talk to the people, because some people will listen. All right, guys, I love you guys. Have a great night. Have a great day. Have a great evening, morning, afternoon, wherever it is you are on the planet. And I will see you guys when I see you, right? All right.